first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News." "Hello, are you the famous Sue?"
The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very good evening, good morning, live from Washington, D.C. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America. Castro charged. Cuba's former president, Raul Castro, is charged with murdering American civilians in a Cold War-era strike.
Charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
What's really going on there? And Gulf billions. Britain has landed a huge Gulf trade deal as the Middle East becomes the world's new economic battleground. But is Keir Starmer quietly embracing Trump-style deal-making?
This is a real win for Britain, and it is also a real win for those Gulf states as well.
Back to Brussels, Labour's EU civil war explodes as warnings emerge that Britain could be forced to accept migrant quotas to rejoin the bloc.
Grounded in the job that I'm doing, which is to make sure we are closer to the EU.
And inside the terror risk, an alleged Iraqi militia leader is charged as warnings grow over jihadist networks in the West. I'm going to talk to the expert behind that warning shortly. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Very warm welcome on this Wednesday night. Joining me this evening in Washington, Republican strategist Matthew Hertz. Good evening, Matthew.
Great to see you.
Good to see you. And journalist and broadcaster Angelina McAhey is with me. How are you?
Hi, good. It's great to see you.
Good to see you. Now, and in London, we've got former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett and journalist and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. How are you guys?
Good. All the better for seeing you, Bev.
Oh, as always. Likewise, Matt, likewise. Right, before we begin, let's just bring you some breaking news. So, a sinkhole was discovered at a major New York airport just a little while ago, forcing a runway closure. Officials at LaGuardia Airport in New York City say the sinkhole was discovered during daily inspections and is so far causing multiple flight delays and cancellations as emergency crews work to repair the site. With me now is aviation analyst and former pilot Kyle Bailey. Kyle, thank you for joining us this evening. So there seems to be a number of unusual issues affecting flights at the moment, collisions in unusual circumstances, etc. on the runway. But I've never heard of a sinkhole opening up at an airport. Could this have been much more dangerous than it appears to have been?
That is correct. Good morning. And, you know, the bottom line is these sinkholes could pretty much pop up anywhere. For example, where I live about, 25 miles west, there's a lot of sinkholes that have happened over time. And just because you have one there doesn't mean there are others surrounding it. So I think the reason why we see so many engineers on the airport and construction officials, they're probably trying to map out around that sinkhole just to make sure that is in fact the only sinkhole that will develop, and there's none in the surrounding area. There was a lot of construction on the airport, so it very well could have been a result of that also, but I think they want to just dot their I's and cross their T's just to make sure that another one doesn't open up. The good news is it didn't actually happen on the runway. It happened on a taxiway right next to the runway. That's good news. It did not happen on the runway itself.
And for people who don't know, just tell us a bit about LaGuardia Airport. It's one of the several airports, isn't it, in the New York area, but very busy.
Yes, so it's one of 3 major airports serving New York City, the major metropolitan, the busiest city in the world. We have LaGuardia, Kennedy, and Newark. LaGuardia is one of them. But what makes LaGuardia interesting, it's on a very small parcel of land with short runways. The runways are only about 7,000 feet long, so you don't have a lot of wiggle room when you're taking off and landing, and those runways are intersecting. And thankfully, with this pothole, it did not wind up on the intersection point, because if that was in fact the case, the whole airport would be closed. But I think we kind of got lucky that this happened on a taxiway, not the runway. But LaGuardia is, one of the busiest airports in the entire country.
And when we say a sinkhole, like you say on this occasion, we've seen sinkholes in the UK that literally a car can drive into and bigger. But on this occasion, we think it was a fairly small one. And of course, the concern will be now that this individual sinkhole can open up to something much greater.
Yes, so just to give you this very quickly, so I live like about 20-25 miles west in New Jersey, where it's a little bit hilly. And the area goes back a long time. So there were actually tunnels under the ground from years and years and years ago, where this was before they even mapped out the terrain underground. So a lot of these sinkholes are a result of activities from like 100 or 200 years ago that aren't mapped. But I think the good news with LaGuardia, it pretty much sits a little bit over sea level. And I would probably believe that there's not tunnels underneath something very close to sea level, an airport. It's not really, by no means, hilly terrain. It's very flat, very close to sea level. So I'm hoping that this is the only one that's there. But they're, no doubt dotting their I's and crossing their T's just to make sure the airport is as safe as it can be.
Okay, Kyle, thank you so much. Kyle Bailey there, aviation analyst and former pilot. I have to say, I would be a bit nervous, I think, going down that runway. Matt, wouldn't you, with a massive potential big holes in it?
Quite heavy, those planes. On the runway. I'm
quite
terrified.
heavy. I'm glad they're checking it. Right, moving on to some more breaking news tonight. The United States has charged Cuba's former president, Raul Castro, with murder in connection to a military airstrike against 2 civilian planes in 1996, which killed 4 people. The aircraft was operated by the Miami-based group Brothers to the Rescue, which describes itself as a humanitarian organization, and it was shot down by Cuban jets. 5 other people are also named as defendants in the case, including 3 military Cuban pilots. The Cuban government has previously argued that the fatal military strike was a legitimate response to the plane's intrusion into Cuban airspace, and has since called the charges a political maneuver. Joining me in Washington, let me talk to my panel about this. I'm not an expert on Cuba, Matthew, I can't lie, and I don't think much of our audience will be either. What's going on here?
What we're seeing here, I think that the Trump administration is making a very similar move as to what they did with Maduro in South America, issuing a statement or issuing legal opinions from the Department of Justice, and then going in and taking some political or judicial action. So I think this is what we're going to see in the coming weeks.
Angelina, I've said for a while that there have been some guests in this studio that I've spoken to and other people in DC that keep mentioning Cuba. It's been mentioned on the tips of very powerful tongues in this city for several months. What is President Trump's ambition when it comes to Cuba, Angelina?
I think that it aligns with Marco Rubio's ambitions, which have been pretty clear for a long time now. Look, Marco Rubio wants to take control of the global south, specifically in Latin America. I think Cuba perfectly aligns that. Marco Rubio is Cuban himself, Cuban American. You know, the U.S. has always had long ties and conflict with Cuba, you know, dismantling the regime, which has never been in supportive of the American regime, and making a way for a pro-American democracy in Cuba. That's definitely the goal. And 100% is this a political maneuver? Yes, it's a political maneuver. That's the strategy, and they're going to go about it in a similar way. So it's a matter of time. We're going to just have to wait to see what happens.
And I mean, how old is he, Raul Castro? He's in his 90s now, isn't he?
He's 94.
He's 94. Candice, what was your sort of first thoughts when you read this story? Because it does beg the question, well, hang on a minute, this is political shenanigans we're seeing here. This isn't necessarily about justice for those people who died in 1996.
Well, I mean, I've just been observing this geopolitical chess that's been going on. I mean, ever since the operation in Venezuela, it was clear that also Cuba was in America's sights, because Venezuela provides so much energy to Cuba, and now the US has just shut down all fuel exports to Cuba, and Cuba's in such a vulnerable position. And I think that it's fascinating, if you look at it historically, Cuba was always able to play what was then the Soviet Union against the US, but now it's not. I mean, it's in such a weak, vulnerable position, and I do wonder how personal this is for Marco Rubio. You know, he's the son of Cuban exiles, and as many people said, you know, this is sort of like the Bay of Pigs, but actually competent.
Yeah, before we hear from you, Matt, let's have a quick listen to what the Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said a little earlier today.
Today, we are announcing an indictment charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals. For nearly 30 years, the families of 4 murdered Americans have waited for justice. As alleged in the indictment, Raul Castro and 5 co-defendants participated in a conspiracy that ended with Cuban military aircraft firing missiles at those civilian planes and killing 4 Americans. The United States and President Trump does not and will not forget its citizens.
Matt Torbett, that's great, and of course these families deserve justice, etc. But if Trump starts taking action within Cuba, against Cuba, even more than he has already, what is his MAGA base going to say about America first?
I don't know if he cares, Bev, at the minute. I mean, depending on what happens in November, he's already a bit of a lame duck president anyway. He could be more so. And if I'm honest with you, the more I've watched, certainly the last 2 or 3 weeks, I honestly don't think he cares about anything else at the moment other than that ballroom. That's all he wants to talk about. And sort of, I suppose, being the new empire of South America. That's where we are at the moment. I mean, Cuba's been under duress since about 1898 and the Platt Amendment, and it's somewhat of basically a colony of the US and has been ever since, sort of being forced to lease land and whatever else in Guantanamo Bay. And I just don't believe that the Secret Services have been sat there for 30 years going, I wonder if we can work this one out. This is a political play and it stinks, really.
Matthew, to my point, though, about the fact that there is a frustration amongst even some real diehard President Trump fans that he's preoccupied with events in other countries. And yet he also seems to have come into the White House with a big to-do list, which involves cleaning up the world, not just America.
Bev, this would be a significant win in the Western Hemisphere for President Trump's foreign policy goals. The Cuban American population, in particular in Florida, is overwhelmingly Republican. Cuban American men voted for Donald Trump, I think, at a rate of 90-10 in the last election. So this would solidify that kind of support in Florida. And it also gives a lasting legacy. This is, if we were talking about Secretary Secretary of State Marco Rubio. This is something of a, not a vendetta necessarily, but certainly a generational policy goal for both of these men.
Yeah, and generational policy goals in Iran, in Venezuela, and now in Cuba. If he can literally pull all this off, and he does clean up the world in the rest of this term, he will go down in history as one of the most productive presidents in history, but you know, remains to be seen, doesn't it? Right, thank you guys. Let me know at home what you think. GBNews.com/your say. Let's talk to former Assistant US Attorney in Florida, Zach Smith, on this very issue. Zach, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. We're just talking about President Trump's ambitions here with Cuba. Is it clear to you what it is that he's trying to achieve?
Well, look, I think at least from a legal perspective, this indictment is very long overdue. The charges are very serious charges. Obviously, it's a 7-count indictment. A federal grand jury has found there is probable cause, meaning there's enough evidence that these crimes were committed by these individuals to move forward. And if Raul Castro and the other co-conspirators are convicted on these charges, he could be facing life in prison. Now, he is 94 years old, but the other co-conspirators as well could also be facing very, very lengthy prison sentences. And this indictment, I think, is very welcome news and is long overdue due to the acts that were committed.
Why hasn't it been done until now?
Well, the timing of these types of indictments, that's always an open question. Obviously, whenever you're dealing with allegations of these natures, getting the evidence, getting the chain of custody correct, that can be somewhat difficult to do. And keep in mind, the allegations involved in this are very sensitive. Likely some of the information came from intelligence officials, so those are issues that have to be worked through as well. But essentially, Raul Castro and the other 5 co-conspirators, they are charged with conspiring to kill U.S. citizens. They are charged with actually murdering U.S. citizens. And then they're also charged with destroying aircraft. Because as you mentioned earlier, this humanitarian group, their mission was to essentially look in international waters and help to rescue individuals who were trying to escape the oppressive communist regime that the Castro brothers put in place there in Cuba.
And of course, we're looking at it from a political angle as well as a legal angle this evening, Zach, and how it sits with President Trump and also Marco Rubio's ambitions to what they would see as to liberate the people of Cuba, who have a desperate time living under that communist regime still to this day. Just speak about it from that point of view if you want, although I'm conscious I might be overstepping your particular remit as a lawyer there.
Well, look, I think as a citizen, as a human being, I don't think you have to look very far to see just how oppressive the Cuban communist regime has been, just how many atrocities the Castro brothers and other individuals who are part of their regime have committed. And I can tell you, knowing many Cuban Americans in South Florida, this is something that has long been viewed as long overdue. And so I think the idea, we heard Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche say earlier that the United States will not forget its citizens. I think this goes to show that the Trump administration, whatever the political motivations may or may not be, the Trump administration is committed to seeking justice and to holding individuals accountable when they harm U.S. citizens, no matter how long ago those actions may have occurred.
Okay, thank you so much, Zach. Zach Smith, their former Assistant US Attorney in Florida. Thank you, Zach. Right, let me know what you think at home. GBNews.com/your say. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
I'm grounded in the job that I'm doing, which is to make sure we are closer to the EU.
A fresh warning tonight as Labour edges ever closer to Europe once again. Could Britain soon find itself losing even more control over who comes into the country? The details on that shortly. First, though, tonight.
This is a real win for Britain, and it is also a real win for those Gulf states as well.
For once, I think this is probably good news for Britain. Apparently, we've landed a huge Gulf trade deal. So maybe Starmer is quietly embracing Trump-style deal-making after all. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People aren't more productive working at home. It's a load of nonsense.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Britain is about to see an American-style approach to the classic sick note, culture permeating society. Is that good news? We're going to discuss that in just a moment. First, though, tonight, a GB News alert. I think this means it's good news. Britain. There you go, see alert. Right, Britain has secured a major trade deal with Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the UAE, with ministers claiming that it could boost the UK economy by almost £4 billion a year. The agreement cuts tariffs on British exports and makes the UK the first G7 nation to strike a major deal with the Gulf bloc. Business Secretary Peter Kyle has hailed it as a win for the UK.
This is a real win for Britain, and it is also a real win for those Gulf states as well. We know that trade is really important, and the fact that they have chosen this moment in time to really double down, to accelerate getting the deal done, to up the ambition of the deal, it shows that even in moments of instability and challenge, trade is incredibly important. By bringing stability, predictability to trade, to increase the amount of revenue and money that is made for economies on both sides. It shows just how important trade is for our country, for their countries, but also for global stability too.
So let's talk now to the head of Communications and External Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Joanna Marchong. Joanna, thank you so much for joining me. This looks like very good news, is it?
Well, yeah, it's the one rare occasion we can actually say, hooray, they've finally done it. They've done something good. I mean, the deal itself, as Peter Carl was saying, you know, it was actually accelerated and taken forward. It took us only 4 years to do this deal, something that we could not have achieved if we were in the EU. The EU have been trying to negotiate a deal with the GCC for about 35 years and have come up empty-handed. So this is one of those wins that we were talking about Brexit could deliver. And it's actually double the amount that it was projected to be in 2022. So for the first time ever, we can actually say, well, you know, maybe our government isn't just a complete failure.
Well, that's damning with faint praise, isn't it? Well done, you're not just a complete failure. Does this mean, though, Joanna, that it's going to affect our oil prices in any way? Are we buying any more oil at a cheaper rate from the Middle East? Because we could do with some.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, this is textbook kind of economic trade deal and exactly why it's so good. What we're seeing is both the UK and the GCC are competitively trading and using their competitive advantages in different areas. So the UK are trading on premium food and drink services, education, finances, financial services, manufacturing, all the things that we know we're good at, whilst the GCC are trading energy, capital, their tourism industry, you know, their tourism industry and just like the steady movement of people into those nations. I've been like, I think about 400,000 businesses will benefit from this. But I will say, like, to caveat, you know, not everything is great. We saw the deal with India also about 0.1% of our GDP, and that's what this is coming up to as well. So whilst we're breaking down those barriers to growth, and barriers to trade, we also need to continue pushing that further. You know, the OBR estimates that Brexit fallout of long-run GDP is around 4%. So this is, you know, taking India and also this deal into account. That's only 0.2% of our GDP being recovered. We need to see the government be more aggressive and also push those deals further, which hopefully will come with time.
Yeah, I hope so. And of course, we're losing a lot of young people, particularly, going to live in these Gulf states to take advantage of the low tax systems that they have there, in the sense that life just offers more. I wonder if this will affect that in any way, Joanna. Are we going to still see that flight to this part of the world from the UK?
Well, this is the trade deal itself is a lever to growth, right? But it's only one, and I don't think it's not really going to be the be-all, end-all that will fix our economy. It's a small part of it. We still need to get things like, you know, removing all the taxes that Labour puts on businesses, which are affecting the young people in the highest demographic of people affected, which is why they're leaving, right? They need to scale back on the regulation. They need to fix our domestic economy as much as they're looking outwardly to increase trade with other nations. This is a small step forward. But again, it should not shadow all the damaging effects that Labour have impacted the economy so far.
OK, Joanna, brilliant. Joanna Marchong there, Head of Communications and External Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute. Thanks so much for joining us. Let me turn to my panel on this. Angelina, it seems sort of obvious when you think about it that the UK should have a deal with the Gulf states because, as I said before, so many of our young people are actually going to live there. So many Brits, now well-known, famous Brits in the public eye, have moved to Dubai. Loads of young people are moving there. We should be having a closer economic ties to these sorts of countries, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, actually, fun fact, the woman who invented Dubai chocolate is from the UK and now lives in Dubai. So, yeah, a worldwide famous chocolate comes from that relationship.
If you're not familiar with Dubai chocolate, it's made with pistachio. I didn't think we were going to turn this way. I wonder if we're going to get cheaper Dubai chocolate in the UK thanks to this trade deal.
Yeah, it's actually supposed to do a deal on the chocolate tariffs as well. So that's exciting for the UK. But yeah, I mean, I read that this deal, it goes back 5 years. So I wonder if we can even give credit, and maybe someone else can answer this better than I can because I'm not British. You know, but can we even give credit to Keir Starmer's government for this trade deal?
It's also quite expensive Dubai chocolate. It's about £8 a bar, actually. But I had to buy some. The kids were raving about it, and it didn't taste that special to me. Matt, can the Labour government take credit for this deal?
They will, and I find myself in this strange position where those traditionally on the right are saying, oh, they've done something right for once, and I'm thinking, well, and I know, look, I'm harder on my own side because I expect better, but as Joanna pointed out, it's 0.1% of GDP. It's 3.7 billion, which sounds like a lot of money. That's 2 winter fuel allowance cuts. That, you know, it could go up to 8 billion. Well, that's kicking people off pip. So I don't want to poo-poo it and make everyone feel fed up all the more. But ultimately, I suppose, and I don't want to do the Labour thing of the last week of reopening Brexit. It's the last thing I want to do, because I think it's a very bad idea to rejoin. But if you look at that, the best estimates of that being between 4 and 9% GDP that we're now missing, and we've got this in India, which brings us 0.2%, it's not quite touching the sides of what we need. It's a step in the right direction, if I'm going to be positive slightly. But it's piecemeal, really, for me. I think we need to be going further and faster with this sort of stuff.
I wonder what it's going to mean for the Gulf countries. I've not seen a figure relating to how beneficial this is going to be for them, because, I mean, 3 billion quid. There's basically some businessmen in the Gulf that pay themselves that almost monthly. So it doesn't feel like, when you put it like that, I'm not sure we're doing that well on it, are we, Matthew?
You know, the thing that I would say about this is it may be a drop in the bucket, but any move toward economic activity with international trade partners, look, I'm a free trader and I always have been. It is so great to see somebody from the Adam Smith Institute talking about this on GB News, because these opportunities are opportunities that allow small businesses, you know, dollars and pounds going from one country to the next. This is good news. And as was just mentioned, this was a multi-year deal. And in fact, the chief negotiator under the Conservative government just a few years ago was Kimmy Badenoch. So I think there are some big wins. Obviously, as a political move, it is great for Starmer's Labour government to talk about this. But it's great in the free trade sense that that Great Britain can export some of its goods and services, and in return get some goods and services from these important Gulf states.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Candice, how long this was in the pipeline. As Matthew said, Kemi Badenoch is one of the first people to discuss it. I mean, I find it astonishing that it's taken, is it 4 or 5 years to get this deal pulled together? I mean, and like Matt says, 3.7 billion at the end of it, Candice. Should we maybe, are we celebrating a bit too soon here?
I mean, I'm quite positive about it. It took a while because you have so many different parties to the deal, and they sort of had to come together on various issues. What's interesting, though, is that we, as the Brexit Britain, were able to strike this deal, whereas the EU hasn't been able to do it in decades. So for me, that's just says one more thing about why Brexit is good for Britain. Yeah, if we talk about it on a macro scale, yes, it seems like a very small percentage of GDP, but on a micro scale, it's going to benefit businesses. It's going to mean employment. Once we start trade flows going, hopefully we can just increase it over time.
Do you know what as well, Bev, very quickly? Do you, I'm sure you're as old enough to remember like I was, the Labour opposition saying to Boris Johnson, look at him, going cap in hand to the Middle East. How morally wrong is that with the Saudis? And now look how people...
Yeah.
It fits funny on the other side, doesn't it? You've got to get something through.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be claiming credit for this, though, aren't they? Literally everybody. Probably the only party that can't claim any credit for this will be Reform. But actually, no, Nigel will claim credit because we're out of the EU. That's why we can do it. Everyone can have a slice of this pie. Anyway, hopefully it is a good news story. Right, let's take a quick look at some of the other main news here in the United States of America. Phenomenal footage, unbelievable footage. It was a car that exploded near Wall Street in New York. It caught fire in Lower Manhattan today, sending thick black smoke into the air close to one of New York City's busiest areas. If you're listening on the radio, it genuinely looks like a massive bomb has gone off. Emergency services, including police and firefighters, were quickly deployed following the reports. That must have been very scary for everybody involved. TikTok influencer Gabby Gonzalez and her father have been arrested over an alleged plot to murder her ex, Why Don't We singer Jack Avery. The influencer, who has nearly 900,000 followers, was arrested by officials in Los Angeles on Monday. Her father, Francisco Gonzalez, was also arrested on the same day on an out-of-state fugitive warrant. In other news, former US Congressman Barney Frank, who is one of the first known openly gay representatives, has died at the age of 86. He was a Democrat who represented southern Massachusetts in the House of Representatives for over 3 decades. And finally, pop icon and Academy Award-winning actress Cher is celebrating her 80th birthday today. I don't think that's her today, by the way, although she doesn't look that different. Her most iconic hits include the 1998 smash Believe and If I Could Turn Back Time. Happy birthday, Cher. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
We need to do more. We're not protecting children enough.
A vicious election in Kentucky, which was not that was Starmer, has sent shockwaves across America and could offer a stark warning to reform UK. First though, tonight, could Britain soon find itself losing even more control over who comes into the country? Yep, that's right. If we go back to the EU, we might have a refugee quota. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre has increased the national terrorist threat level from substantial to severe.
Welcome back to The Late Show. That was Security Minister Dan Jarvis just a few weeks ago. But tonight, warnings are growing over jihadist networks and their influence in the West. I'm going to talk to an expert behind that warning very shortly. First, though, let me bring you some breaking news just reaching us here in DC. A person has been detained, reportedly, amid a police operation at Melbourne's Avalon Airport. An airport spokesperson has said the following: the domestic terminal at Melbourne Avalon Airport was evacuated this morning following the identification of a suspicious item during the screening process. They said Victoria Police attended and an individual has been detained. The matter is now being managed by police and any further inquiry should be directed to Victoria Police. So somebody has been arrested in relation to what was suspected or a mysterious package at the airport in Melbourne this morning. Right, moving on. Officials in Brussels have warned that Britain would likely be forced into the European Union's refugee relocation scheme if we were to rejoin the bloc. Under the post-Brexit Migration Pact, member states must either accept quotas of relocated asylum seekers or pay into the EU system, with diplomatic sources saying the UK would no longer get the opt-outs it once had. So the debate over reversing Brexit is playing a central role in the suspected upcoming Labour leadership battle after Wes Streeting described leaving the EU as a catastrophic mistake. The Prime Minister has also pledged to move closer to Brussels, but has stopped short of saying Britain should reapply for membership. Let me talk to my panel about this. Let me come to you guys in the UK first of all on this. Look, I genuinely don't know what the British appetite is to go back into Brexit. I know what the appetite is with the GBNews viewers, and I think most of the time it's a very hard no thank you. That was democracy in action. But Matt, if we start to hear that, fine, you want to come back in, but only if you accept quotas of relocated asylum seekers, I think that would tip the dial. A lot of people would say, no, get lost, don't want anything to do with it.
I think that would just be the tip of the iceberg as well, and that's why, you know, I voted Remain. I wasn't particularly passionate about it, but people didn't feel this way. But we'll never have it as good as we did. We never had to join the Euro. We opted out. They'd almost certainly try and make us join it this time round. We weren't in Schengen. People could say we experimented with freedom of movement because of how it was, but we weren't in that block with regards to immigration. We didn't go to the EU to consult them on the Iraq war. We just went ahead and did it anyway, despite EU rules. Now, I think we'd have to pay a lot more. There'll be quotas. I think we may have to do things like join the Euro. And as much as I see the economic argument, I just don't think it would be a good idea. And I think if Labour were to put that in the next manifesto, it would be something I would diverge from a little bit, because I also think you can't do this without a mandate after the referendum we had nearly 10 years ago. And I see a lot of polls that people are polled and they sort of regret their vote. I think that's partly because they're poorer, but we've had COVID as well, and now we've got other things like the war in the Middle East. Whatever happens, you can't just go back in. You've got to have at least a referendum, and we all remember how awful that period was as well.
We know that Wes Streeting has said that he thinks it was a catastrophic mistake that we left. Does anybody have any clarity on what Andy Burnham thinks about this at the moment? Candice, do you know if he were to become Prime Minister? Do we have any idea how he feels about the EU?
Yes, I think he said he would like to get closer to the EU, but I think that he knows right now that is politically toxic, especially in a Brexit voting constituency like Makerfield. So I can imagine he'll really back off from that position during the campaign. I can't think of anything worse. If you were to say to the British public now, no, you're going to get a quota of asylum seekers and you'll have no control over it, I mean, it would just be explosive. The immigration debate has moved on so much from 2016. Almost across the board, people are highly conservative on immigration.
Yeah, very true. Matthew?
Yeah, Bev, Matt mentioned the Brexit referendum from almost a decade ago, but what about the referendum from just a couple of weeks ago? Municipal elections all across the country, and reform won big. This is yet another statement. This is a significant policy platform of Farage's reform, and I think that this would be dead on arrival if Labour embraces fully. And I think that it's an opportunity. Again, Great Britain is an independent, it is its own concept in Europe and across Western Europe. And this is just a terrible idea to further embrace more the failed policies of Europe.
Angelina, would the other EU leaders have a right, though, to say to us, if you want the benefits, you want to trade with us, you want the free movement of your people across Europe, this is tough, you're going to have to agree to some of these quotas?
I mean, it's a complete overreach, but like, look at Switzerland. You know, Switzerland, they're very strict with their immigration and they're doing great in Europe and everyone's okay with them. So why would they force that on the UK when they're not forcing it on other European nations or even other European nations that are not part of the EU? So I don't think that it's really fair for the EU to impose those kind of refugees quotas, and it's definitely an overreach of authority and power.
They'd be punishing us though, Matthew, wouldn't they? This would be payback time for the UK.
Well, it's a tremendous
Put over their knee and spanked on the bottom. That is effectively what they would be doing to us.
Absolutely. This is, and they would relish it in Brussels.
Thought you had more than that, but yeah, you're right. They would relish it. They would absolutely want to punish us. That would be part of it, wouldn't it, Brits, Matthew? It would be part of the punishment. Matt, would be you're not coming. You come back now on our terms, not yours.
Yeah, no, I think so, and it would be you're not going to do this again, are you? Because we're going to make sure of it. You're going to be locked in. But I suppose the biggest quandary, and I think the reason Wes Streeting mentioned it, is he wants to put pressure on Andy Burnham if he's elected. Labour members overwhelmingly support rejoining the EU, let alone remaining. And it's going to put a future leadership candidate in a tricky bind of what's going to happen at the next election. I think closer ties is more likely, and maybe some single market customs union sort of talk. I cannot fathom a world in which somebody as a Labour Prime Minister will talk about rejoining at the next election. I would think it would be electoral suicide in a way.
OK, I just have to give you a list of candidates. The Makerfield by-election will take place on the 18th of June following the resignation of Labour MP Josh Simons. The candidates so far: Andy Burnham, the Labour Party; Alan Howlin Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party; Robert Kenyon, Reform UK; Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain; Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. There we go. Luckily, it's not that long a list. Sorry about that. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
We need to do more. We're not protecting children enough.
Is it finally time to ban children from social media altogether? Wait until you hear the new side effects researchers now believe could be linked to scrolling online. Also on the show tonight.
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British, right?
One of the best clips from the internet today, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves copying it from all sides. Because after being heckled by a voter, bank chiefs are warning that her new supermarket policy is simply preposterous. All the details on that next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Looking at the Your Says, quite a few of you commenting on that car fire in New York and saying that looks like an electric vehicle. We don't know for sure, but you at home certainly seem to think that we're going to see more of those cars exploding like that. Welcome back, I'm Bev. This is The Late Show Live. Still to come this evening, an alleged Iraqi militia leader is charged as warnings grow over jihadist networks in the West. I'm going to talk to an expert behind that warning very shortly. First though, The Guardian on the front page are saying that Burnham backs Mahmoud's plans to tighten rules on immigration. Let's just go through these pages, these front pages. The Sun says 20 feet from World War III. Are we showing these pictures? Don't worry. Financial Times saying supermarket backlash forces Reeves into a U-turn over grocery price caps. And I think we're going to talk about the front page of the Daily Mirror because this is leading with the fact that Rachel Reeves is planning to cut the cost of grocery staples like baked beans and margarine. It says the Chancellor is to help with the cost of living by reducing tariffs on more than 100 items. Right, in London, have you been able to get your head around this story and how she intends to do this? Do you understand how she thinks, Matt, that she's going to reduce the prices of these food goods?
Do you know what, Bev? I don't. I've been in Makerfield all day and I've only just seen this video of the bloke shouting at, which I think is more sort of entertaining, I suppose, than the tariffs. No, I know they're going to give free bus rides away in August as well for kids. I can only assume getting kids out and about, which I think actually is a good thing rather than being sat on the phones. If it's to encourage them to go out and be doing stuff, or when I was a kid, you'd go out into Stockport town centre, it'd be a right day out. So I think that's a good thing. And I know there's been talk about a cut to fuel duty as well, which I think was always probably going to be on the cards, but there appears to be a bit of a policy blitz at the moment, I think, with Keir Starmer being under pressure.
They're trying to just give a lot of stuff away, it seems, is what I'm reading into this, because I thought we had no money, but apparently now we can give free bus rides, Candice, for all 5 to 15-year-olds, which again is ridiculous because my 15-year-old, I can afford to pay for her to go on the bus. Why is my daughter getting a free bus ride, free bus pass for the whole summer when she doesn't need it?
Yeah, I mean, this is just the economics of the madhouse. I don't know what they're doing. It's ignorance, it's incompetence. I don't know what other adjectives I can think of. Just giving away free stuff. And then also trying to introduce price controls. Price controls. When have price controls ever worked? It's like we're doing some rerun of the 1970s. And this is why I think that Labour governments often end with economic and financial disaster because of stuff like this. Giving stuff away for free and then not understanding how market dynamics work.
Yeah, I think so, Matt.
Yeah, this is exactly, I think the Labour Party is looking for an issue, so throwing a lot of things against the wall, seeing what sticks, seeing what is popular with the voters, and then running with that. So you've got this situation that's a little bit of a political uncertainty for Starmer's government. I wish we had cans of beans under the desk here for beans and toast here on the program.
You can't make decent baked beans. I cannot buy a decent tin of baked beans in this country. They're all full of sugar.
I was in London last July. I had my first beans on toast, and I'm not sure that we're talking about the same beans.
Oh, we are. Because you do, well, I mean, there's only one make of baked beans, isn't there, that's worth buying, let's be honest. I can't buy them here. Your baked beans are rubbish. They taste like dessert.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of sugar in them, but I don't eat baked beans. So
okay, well, moving back to the British baked beans, because it took a bit of a strange tangent again there. So apparently this is our government, Angelina, basically giving supermarkets pressure to cut their prices, but they're not. It's not going to be legal. It's not that they're just saying nicely. Would you mind just keeping your prices down, please, for a few items? It's neither. It's nothing. It's pointless.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to work. I mean, they should know that from any kind of history. I don't know what they hope to gain from that. I can say on giving, free bus rides to children under 15, I don't think that's necessarily problematic. It's very standard in a lot of countries. You have it here in DC, where children ride for free, and it's a similar concept to seniors getting certain discounts because of their seniors.
Yeah.
You just don't know people's circumstances, and I think it's a good thing to invest in our youth. Enforcing grocery stores to slash their prices, that's going to be really, really hard given the current status of inflation and the oil shortages and just logistics, traveling and transporting goods. Obviously, that's going to cause inflation. So if you're forcing or asking even grocery stores, where are they making up the lost revenue, or who's subsidizing that revenue? Where is it going to come out from? Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the people who've been commenting on this. Chief Executive of the British Retail Consortium, Helen Dickinson, has said rather than introducing 1970s-style price controls and trying to force retailers to sell goods at a loss, the government must focus on how it will reduce the public policy costs which are pushing up food prices in the first place. Lots of current and former supermarket CEOs saying this is crazy. Like it's just tinkering around at the edges, isn't it?
Bev, there's a situation where you could have a lost leader. So you take one item out of the grocery store and the grocery store agrees to cut that price, but it would almost have to be from another company. So let's say there's a beans company that cuts beans prices by 20%, but then they'd have to shift the cost and increase the cost somewhere else. So we're really just moving dollars or pounds around, and so it is impractical. It then becomes very dangerous when the government in power says you must cut these prices.
And most supermarkets, they have lost leaders anyway. They'll have their cheap bread or their cheap, I was going to say milk, but I don't think it is milk anymore because, the farmers are basically making any profit on it as it is. But they will have some items which they do that anyway. And in fact, a lot of the people who've been talking out about this story today from within the supermarket industry say that we already have pretty competitive pricing when it comes to groceries in the UK. They are certainly cheaper than here in, I don't know about other countries, other states, but in DC, the food prices are eye-watering. When I first arrived, we did a comparison. Anna Riley went out to a supermarket in Yorkshire and bought kind of 20 staple items. I did the same here in DC, and mine was about 30% more expensive, if I remember rightly, than Anna's. It was really quite punchy. What did you think of beans on toast?
Beans on toast are great, but in the United States, there's more take-home pay, so the cost is a little bit different.
Yeah, your wages are a little higher than us. This is very true. Right, more to come in the next hour, including why this could have been avoided.
The Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre has increased the national terrorist threat level from substantial to severe.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Live from Washington, this is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America. Castro charged. Cuba's former president, Raul Castro, is charged with murdering American civilians in a Cold War-era airstrike.
Charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
Inside the terror risk, an alleged Iraqi militia leader is charged as warnings grow over jihadist networks in the West. I'm going to speak to the expert behind that warning, Laura Rees, very shortly. And sick note, Britain. Labour plans a major overhaul of Britain's broken system as millions remain out of work, and it's based on a model here in America. And a big story this, Trump's purge. Donald Trump's handpicked candidate crushes Republican rebel Thomas Massie in a brutal MAGA loyalty test. Matthew has been on the campaign trail with this very guy recently. It's also raising questions about Reform UK in Britain. I'll explain all.
We weren't really running against Ed Gowron. We weren't running against Donald Trump. We were running for what we believe in.
And this evening, the royal love story. Harry and Meghan celebrate 8 years of marriage with never-before-seen wedding snaps. So why are they showing us now? I'm Bev Turner, and this is The Late Show Live. Stay tuned for that. Kinsey Schofield will be joining me, and I know how many of you at home absolutely love Kinsey. Now, I'm joined this evening by Republican strategist Matthew Hertz. If you're just tuning in, where have you been? Journalist and broadcaster Angelina McAhey is here, and in London we've got Matt Torbett and Candace Holdsworth. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. Let's kick off this evening with a GB News alert. So tonight, fresh warnings are being raised about whether Western immigration systems are becoming vulnerable to terror infiltration. The FBI has arrested an Iraqi militia leader accused of coordinating terror attacks across Europe, plotting attacks on Jewish institutions, and threatening President Donald Trump and his family. Authorities say Mohammed al-Sadi was a senior figure in an Iran-backed terror group, and tonight national security experts in America are warning that weak vetting, asylum fraud, and years of mass migration may have created dangerous security gaps inside both the United States and Britain. The case is already fueling calls from allies of President Trump for tougher deportations and stricter immigration controls, with some warning there could already be more extremist operatives living inside of America. One of those people sounding the alarm is the director of the Heritage Foundation's Border Security and Immigration Centre, Laura Rees. Laura, thank you very much for joining me this evening. So, tell us a bit about this particular guy, Laura, and why this charging of this guy is so significant.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's good to be with you. Yes, the U.S. Justice Department announced that Mohammed al-Sadi has been arrested, and he is part of the leadership of one of Iran's many proxies, this group out of Iraq. And he has continued to wage threats and attacks against Americans, against Jews, against our allies in Europe and elsewhere, in part as revenge for the killing of the Iranian leader Qasem Soleimani, but also just as part of jihad. And so he is just one part of Iranian leadership and proxies who have been located, whether abroad or in the U.S. I mean, ICE here has continued to deport Iranian militants, and our intelligence community continues to report in their annual assessment about the ongoing threat and calls for jihad in the U.S., but against American interests really around the world. And when Iranian leadership currently is threatening attacks outside of the region, if they are attacked by the U.S. or our allies, we have to take very seriously who is still in the U.S. and what do they intend to do.
And you're one of those people, Laura, who's been saying that this is a risk that America has been running. How, why has America been vulnerable to infiltration by these kind of jihadists?
Well, it's a combination of illegal immigration, but also legal immigration. On the illegal front, we had 4 years under the Biden administration of very open borders, and the Biden administration allowed millions to enter illegally. And yet still on top of that, we know that over 2 million people got away or intentionally evaded Border Patrol, gave up a free plane ticket to anywhere in the U.S., and all the downstream benefits from that. Why did they intend to intentionally evade Border Patrol? Because they didn't want to be fingerprinted. They didn't want to be vetted. And so we have to assume that among that population are terror threats, and our border czar Tom Homan repeatedly talks about that is his #1 concern. But also on the legal front, we have so many pathways to come here legally, and unfortunately many of them are easy to defraud, and we don't thoroughly or haven't thoroughly vetted them, particularly under the Biden administration. If you think just alone about the evacuation out of Kabul in 2021, we didn't vet many of them, and we've faced consequences for it. For example, our Thanksgiving shooting of 2 National Guards just a few months ago.
Yeah. And Laura, is it reasonable to think that the UK has also allowed ourselves to be vulnerable and infiltrated like this?
Well, certainly the UK is facing mass migration as well, across the channel and through other avenues. And then the numbers have been overwhelming, and living with a government that is not keen to deport them, and so that gets exploited. We lived through that in the here in the U.S., but the UK is facing it, France is facing it, and we are really dealing with a threat to Western civilization in our 3 countries alone. And that's why it's so important to work together and to not just prevent more of the flow coming in, but also to do that interior enforcement, the mass deportations that are necessary to reverse those illegal trends and all of the negative consequences, whether that's national security threats, public safety threats, economic threats to our 3 countries.
The vast majority of people that claim asylum in the UK, let's say refugees, are allowed to stay. I can't remember this specific percentage at the moment, Laura, you might know better than I do, but would you say that some of those people who have come into the UK claiming asylum but coming via the Channel and are allowed to stay could have malicious intent towards the UK?
Yes, our intelligence community has testified for years that asylum protection, refugee protection around the world gets exploited by terrorists. We saw that during the 2016 era as many were fleeing Syria and that region and going to Europe, but also to the US. And it hasn't changed. So if there is an open border, then adversaries are going to exploit it for their bad intentions. And that's why it's so important to have a secure border, to vet those who you are letting come in, and to remove those who are a danger to the community, a danger to the nation.
Yeah, I think it's about 42 to 47% of asylum seekers who claim asylum in the UK are actually granted protection at their initial decision, but I wonder how many of those that are turned away then appeal and come back. I mean, we're hearing instances of people being sent home, getting back on a boat and just trying again. And when you look across at the UK, do you see any optimism for how we can solve our border security?
Well, I mean, the leadership is getting a lot of pressure to stop the flow, but also, I mean, the UK left Europe for a reason through Brexit, and it's not just stopping the flow. It needs to be a willingness to conduct deportations and not have your policies dictated by supranational entities and bodies. That's why the UK left. But to have a prime minister who continues to look towards, international courts and international laws really undermines what the British people voted for.
Absolutely. Director of the Heritage Foundation's Border Security and Immigration Centre, Laura Rees. Laura, thank you so much for joining us again on The Late Show Live. Let me talk to my panel about this. Who wants to start on this one? It's not a surprise, Angelina, let's talk about the UK. If we're allowing in thousands of people, young men, and as Laura said there, they don't want to come through the official channels, they don't want to be fingerprinted, they don't want to be registered on the system, which would suggest they are planning to do no good.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely alarming, and that's something you guys should definitely fix. Every country should have a thorough immigration process and where you're checking and tracking who's coming into your country. No doubt there's some safety concerns about that. But look, we are in an era where we're participating in asymmetrical warfare abroad. We're meddling in different type of geopolitical events. I can only speak from American perspective. Of course, the UK is doing different things. We're meddling in different foreign affairs, and that's going to create extremism, and that's also going to up the risk for terrorist attacks in America specifically. And it's not just these jihadists, though. If you look, like, people are being radicalized on the internet. We have domestic terrorists. The most recent act of domestic terrorism was in San Diego on Monday. And that was from 2 teenagers, American teenagers, who were radicalized on the internet. So again, it's more encompassing. I think that the threat is more encompassing than just focus on the jihadists and the immigrants coming over who aren't thoroughly or properly vetted.
Candice, do you think America's leading the way, though, in terms of setting an example to the UK in terms of what can be done about illegal migration and therefore also terrorism?
Yes, absolutely. And I felt like everything that Laura said in your interview, I was nodding at. I think that we're at a moment now where we have to be very, very strict about legal and illegal immigration, because what we're finding is hostile states are exploiting these very open liberal systems that we have. I mean, you look at what happened in Australia. There were firebombing attacks on synagogues in Melbourne, and they discovered that Iran was behind it, and they actually expelled the Iranian ambassador. The same thing is happening here now. They believed IRGC groups, proxies, are behind some of the attacks against British Jews. And at the moment, the fear in the British Jewish community is so great. It is so great. So what you do not want to do is you do not want people coming to this country who are coming from places that have a long and violent history of anti-Semitism. I mean, we've already had a case now, it was last year, where you had 2 Tunisian immigrants planning an attack on Jews in Manchester. You know, Tunisia has there are no Jews left in Tunisia. They were so violently attacked for years. So yes, I mean, I think it's just common sense, and I think the times we're in now, where it is a time of crisis, you know, you've got hostile states trying to do things. We can't be liberal, and we can't be naive about this.
Matthew, have we been too liberal and too naive in the UK?
Well, I think it's exactly what we're seeing, but orienting yourself closer to the European Union would make it worse. Laura made some excellent points from the Heritage Foundation. There are 3 words that every viewer or listener should consider: borders, language, culture. A country should be able to secure its borders. It should have a unifying language that brings its people together, and it should seek to express diverse cultures through the many people who may come to the country, but a unifying culture where those values, in our case, Western values, a belief in a constitutional government or representation of the rule of law, those kinds of things. And if those individuals who seek refuge in a country that allows and that where rule of law and freedom flourish, if they're not aligned with those values, the question is, do you let them in or do you turn them away? And I think quite often Great Britain has said, we're going to go ahead and let you in.
Well, Matt Torbey, I'm not sure we know what our values are most of the time. We've never kind of had a clearly defined definition of being British. We don't have a constitution here. Wherever we try to define values, we end up talking about things like cricket and pots of tea, and it all gets a bit twee, doesn't it? Do we need to get a bit more muscular about who we are?
I mean, it may be beneficial, but like you say, I think it's a bit of a hodgepodge of all sorts, because, you know, I think we queue a lot, and therefore we like fairness, and we like patience, and we like, you know, 5 a.m. pints at the airport, and, you know, there's typical sort of British things, but it's all a bit silly. This is obviously concerning. I think there are 2 types of people, really, that do this sort of stuff. There are the types that are just anti-West and grow up reading a religious book and therefore decide they have to go through with getting rid of the enemy. And then I do think there is an aspect of us that sometimes reaps what we sow, because historically our interventions in the Middle East have been dreadful and have made things worse. And I think because of that, we make people martyrs, and then they therefore want retribution. Doesn't make it right. But I can understand if someone came in my house and bombed my mum and dad, I'd probably be pretty annoyed as well.
I mean, I don't think we can always bring it back, but I don't think we can always blame ourselves, right? Like, I don't always think that it's us.
No, I said there's 2 different types, not necessarily always blaming ourselves, but historically, I struggle to think of a intervention we've made recently, certainly in the last 40 years, 50 years, I'd maybe even say, that we've made in the Middle East where we've made things better, there's been a better regime, or you know, it hasn't resulted in comeuppance.
But Keir Starmer chose not to get involved in the Iran conflict, and we've still got Iranian proxies attacking British Jews. So, I mean, I think they're just opposed to us no matter what we do.
Oh, yeah, I think a lot of that probably came from the Gulf War in 1990, but again, I think also these are potentially people that wanted to do us harm anyway, and that's the other side of it. How do we get to a point of de-radicalising people and ensuring they want to take part in the culture that is our country?
I think we have to
question all over.
Yeah, I think we have to project strength. I think that's it.
Yeah, go on.
So, yeah, something I'm seeing consistent in America and the UK is our simulation programs. We don't really have much or good simulation programs here in America. Growing up in California, I remember we had classes where there weren't even, it was all in Spanish, and maybe the teacher didn't even speak Spanish because we did have so many different migrants coming into California. Where's the simulation? They kind of just let them in, okay, we approve your visa, and they let them out into the wild. There's no really, you know, how are are they going to adapt to American culture? There's a lot of migrants here in America who won't even leave their kind of subculture in America. They're really tied to, you know, Hispanics are hanging out with the Spanish-speaking community, or the Afghans are hanging out with the Afghani community. Of course, that brings a lot of great multiculturalism to America in terms of cuisine and other exposing us. But again, to piggyback off what Matthew said, is it's where's that assimilation? They can assimilate to the Western culture, but also then we can explore their culture through their lenses. They can bring that to us while also learning about how they can fit into our society.
Yeah. Matthew?
You know, Bev, I was thinking mandatory beans on toast since we're still here, but I do think that...
That's very British. That would definitely be there in the list of our cultural signposts, that would be.
There is something to say for letting people in who want to express freedom and Western values, but making sure there is a thorough check or system that allows for you to look at someone's history, fingerprinting, documentation, and then at the first sign of danger, you got to go back. And I think that is something that the government right now, the Labour government, and for a long time in Great Britain, have just been hesitant to do.
I can't stop thinking about how strange beans on toast actually is when you have a mirror held up to you of what an unusual meal that is. I was raised on beans on toast. I won't have a bad word said about it.
Yes, same in the same, Bev. We were exactly the same.
From the womb.
Yeah, I was raised on it. Protein, good healthy protein, beans full of fibre, and a bit of nice healthy bread, proper butter though, Matthew.
I love, but again, that beans on toast meal in London last July was fantastic.
And you have to put a bit of black pepper. You know you're posh when you put in black pepper on your beans on toast. Though. That's when I realised that I'd been successful in terms of social mobility. Right, on this issue, this is migration and terrorism, not beans on toast. A Home Office spokesperson has told GB News every individual who arrives in the UK illegally is subject to robust security and identity checks. Where individuals are identified as a threat to national security or public safety, we take action and we remove them as swiftly as possible. Let us know your thoughts this evening. gbnews.com/your say on anything from beans on toast to illegal migration. Going to have a quick look at them now. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
We have to rely on ourselves. We can't rely on outside countries and outside sources.
Well, he said it then and he means it now. The Trump administration is expected to make major changes to NATO and the resources they provide. But can Britain and Europe really defend themselves without America? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
We don't just need to change the sick note, we need to change the sick note culture.
Well, do you remember him? Do you know who that was?
No idea.
Do you know who that was?
That guy?
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak.
Rishi Sunak, well done. How quickly we forget. He was a former Prime Minister.
You had me doubting myself, thank you.
That was a message from former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak a few years ago. Do you know what? Be careful what you wish for, because we all wanted him out of office, and now I think most of us will take him back in a heartbeat. Tonight, it looks like the government has finally been listening, because the Labour government is saying that Britain's broken sick note system is set for a major overhaul, with new pilots focused on keeping people connected to work rather than simply signing them off. Ministers say the current process has become a box-ticking exercise, with more than 90% of fit notes declaring patients unfit for work, which I suppose they would. The reforms would see patients offered tailored support, including workplace adjustments and guidance from health professionals, in a move shifting Britain closer to a more US-style model, focused on what people still can do, not just on what they can't do. Let's bring our panel in. Let's have a bit of transatlantic chat about this. What happens here in America if you're ill, Angelina, and you go to your equivalent of a GP, your local doctor? What do you call them?
Primary care doctor.
A primary care doctor, right. You go to your primary care doctor and you say, I'm not feeling very well, I've got whatever it is, physical, mental, health issues, whatever. And do they write you a note to give to your employer Is that how it would work?
It's on a case-to-case basis. It's up to the company. They set the rules. Yeah, it's just varied. Some companies do require no, other companies don't really care. I mean, some companies in the U.S. have unlimited PTO. Now, that's another tactic.
What's a PTO?
PTO is paid time off. So unlimited PTO is another tactic. It's something that modern companies are using more, millennial companies. And actually, it's proven that there's been studies done on it that when you give people unlimited PTO, they actually are using less PTO than when you are actually giving people 2.5 weeks or 3 sick days, right? That's something that companies will also give depending on, sick days versus PTO. Anyway, so yeah, unlimited PTO has been proven to help with that solution because people actually end up working more because they don't feel like a race against the clock. Like, I need to use my sick days. I need to use my PTO days. And they just
do you get paid for this unlimited time off in America?
Yeah, again, it depends on the company. I've worked at companies with unlimited PTO. I've worked at companies who won't pay you if you take a day off. That's being a contractor. And then, of course, I've worked at companies who just offer, 3 sick days and 2.5 weeks or that standard PTO, and you'll have to use those. Now, some companies, and I've heard that, they will require you to get a doctor's note to use a sick day, or maybe you're out of PTO. Then you need to have a doctor's note in order to get additional time off. Sometimes that can hurt your compensation, though. But again, it varies from company to company.
I think that's fascinating, Brits, down the line. Matthew, your reaction to unlimited time off was the same as mine then. I nearly fell off my chair. But I quite like the psychology, though, because as Angelina said, if your boss says, yeah, go for it, people tend not to abuse the system. I'm so sorry, but I don't think British people would think like that.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know if they still do it. As Angela was saying it, I think Virgin Media or Virgin used to do this, or maybe still do it. And Richard Branson used to say he would see a similar effect where it's almost like you're using it on fair usage. People wouldn't take the mick, but their mental health was better because they were having that work-life balance or whatever. I think with regards to the sick pay, this sort of sick note society we have at times over here, I think there's another aspect as well, certainly around mental health, where there's a psychology of people that feel unless they're leaving with a box of something, tablets or otherwise, then they're not going to get fixed. And I think at times doctors haven't had the confidence to prescribe fresh air, exercise and good food, because that will go some way, not for everybody, certainly the more serious cases, but activity is one of the most important things you can do when you're in that way. And I think antidepressants have their place, but we have people at the moment stuck on them, feeling like they can't move off them and almost, not moving on actually to the next bit of their lives.
Do you know, Candice, I mean, are we having another good news story from this Labour government tonight? Is that what's happening here? That actually this is another policy which is quite sensible, that they're not just going to allow people to be off on the sick, they're going to give them some sort of support. Have I read this correctly?
Yes, the return of common sense. This needs to happen, though. It's not caring to just sign people off work like this, sick, and just give up on them. People need to be... If you actually care about someone, you want them to be working, you want them to be getting up in the morning, having a purpose, because the more that you wallow and you languish at home thinking that you're a victim, the worse your life is going to become. And so I really hope that we have this sort of attitudinal shift that says, actually, if you care about people, you say the tough things and you say, you know what, I'm not going to let you rot. I'm not going to let you sit at home and rot.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the detail here. The Care Minister, Stephen Kinnock, has said NHS staff had repeatedly highlighted that the current Fit Note system is not working for patients or clinicians who sign them off. These pilots mark the beginning of the end for that broken system, giving people personalised support, says Stephen Kinnock, to get them back into work and freeing up GPs from unnecessary admin so they can focus on what they do best, caring for their patients. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I mean, we've also had, as you said, Matt, they've also changed the guidance as well so that GPs can prescribe gym memberships now. And talking therapies. I mean, I love this direction of travel. I mean, I'm not going to quite start a round of applause and a standing ovation for this Labour government just yet tonight, but it does feel like this is something quite sensible. But have they got the messaging right on this today? Because all we're talking about is Rachel Reeves being heckled by someone at a garage. If you go onto social media, that's the only clip that's doing the rounds today. And it seems like they've dropped several good news stories all in one day, and they're losing the impact from them, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you can't potentially foresee the fact that somebody's going to be giving dogs abuse to the Chancellor. You maybe predict that, you know, they're not very well liked at the moment.
We could have seen that coming, Matthew Torbett.
Well, no, there's an argument that maybe you could. And I suppose it plays into the fact that still Keir Starmer at the moment doesn't have a director of communications, and that maybe is certainly a story of this government, that certainly what you would hear from Angela Rayner and others, that we haven't been loud enough in telling our story and the good things that we've been doing. This is certainly a step in the right direction. I would be a huge advocate of it, and I hope they shout it loudly all week.
Yeah, if you didn't see the clip today of Rachel Reeves, that's our Chancellor, that's your Scott Bessent here in America. I'm sure you know that. I don't want to patronise you, but I'm never quite sure. Do a lot of translating between these two countries. She went to make the announcement about reducing fuel duty at a garage today, and a white van man told her what for, and he didn't use some entirely pleasant words at him. But you could, if you were working for that Labour government, Matt, would you have put Rachel Reeves on a garage forecourt right now at the moment, knowing how desperately unpopular she is with all aspects of the population?
I think for the optics of a fuel duty cut, yes, I see why it would make sense. Whether you would do it closer to the end of the week in her constituency, where at least she's got some of the vote, I don't know. But, I mean, I'm in two minds, because I saw one edit and I thought, oh no, she's like sort of little Weasley nerd at school going, you don't tell me, and I thought, oh no, this is terrible. But then actually I saw a fuller edit, and she sort of gave as good as she's got. She's, you know, politicians are nerds, end of story, so she's only going to be so much, but you know, at least she's give something back rather than look at, she could have been silent, would be even worse.
Yeah, I know. But I just think, who put her in that position? How can they not have known that somebody in a white van was going to give her a mouthful? Somebody that hates her. Oh, I see what you mean. So your suggestion is that perhaps there are people working within the Labour Party comms department who sat back and went, this is going to be fun. Just watch this. They're going to be out anytime soon.
No such thing at all.
Well, she was very badly advised, and for me it suggested that she's not reading the room again, that they don't know. You cannot put any of that cabinet out in public with cameras in front of their faces. Let's have a quick look at it as we're talking about it, if you haven't seen it. Here it is.
I love our country. I love our country. I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British. Right. Very good.
Great.
Put that on the telly. Right.
No.
Right.
I mean, yeah, she's got a bit of metal to her. You can see from that. Like she took it on, but the thing is, what he was getting at, what he was doing, shouting there. She said that was not good manners. Well, it wasn't good manners, but the number of people at the United Kingdom rally at the weekend who were trying to articulate that what they don't feel is heard. Their biggest frustration, they say, the government doesn't listen to us, That's what they were saying. It doesn't matter whether they care about migration or not, the people at the rally, whether they do or they don't, they care about. They just keep saying, no one's listening to us. And for her response to be like that, Candice, it made me cringe and a bit angry inside. You sort of wanted her to go, come here then, get out of your van, come and have a chat with me, tell me what's the matter, talk to me. That would have been a very powerful way to cope with that.
I totally agree. I don't think they quite understand the level of anger and sort of seething resentment that exists in the country. And I think that sort of person, that man, a tradesman, you know, patriotic, he would have been Labour's natural constituency. And the fact that those people are so angry and they're moved to shout in the street like that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I think, I like to think, I mean, I know it's just difficult and it's a security risk and she's got the press there, but I think I'd have gone up to his window, knocked on his window and said, talk to me then. If you've got the testicles to shout across the forecourt, then tell me to my face what you really think and I'll listen. Matt, should she have done that?
You know, Bev, most of the viewers here will never meet a member of the cabinet in person, and so there is an audible and understandable frustration. And for someone to have the courage, look, I've driven by politicians that I've liked and disliked before, and it takes a lot of courage to say what you think to someone who is a representative of the government. And so kudos to him. Was it very British? Was he polite? No, but I think it is a manifestation of that frustration. And she could have turned it, and again, she's a little nerdy in the video, but I think she could have turned it around and said, well, come over and let's have a conversation and let him air his grievance, which is legitimate, and then say, I understand how you feel. We're working on these policies and maybe we talk about this and that. And of course, they're throwing 7 or 8 policies against the wall over the last several days. And I think that would have been a significant opportunity for her and for Labour.
Yeah, what did you make of that interaction, Angelina, when you see it there? I mean, that's our Scott Besant on a forecourt, basically, being heckled by a white van man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I see people, like in America, people will run into different political events or like maybe even a gathering at a restaurant to like go berate a politician. This is much more common in America. To piggyback off of what Matt said, like I'm a journalist, so I'm never insulting a politician to their face, right? We're just approaching it from a point of understanding. But yeah, this could have been totally an opportunity for her if she did de-escalate the situation and she was able to form some kind of connection with that person who was terrorizing her. That would have been remarkable for her.
And she could have said, turn my mic off. She could have said, I don't want these cameras. I'm going to go and talk to him, and gone up to his window and had a private conversation with him. That's what the nation is crying out for, that sort of interaction, that authentic connection with a government who seem to embody the detached elites more than any other government that I can remember in living memory. And they are a socialist Labour Party. That's the bit that makes no sense. Right, let me know at home what you think. GBNews.com/your say. Let's have a quick look at some of the other main news headlines here in America tonight. Unbelievable scenes. A car exploded near Wall Street today after initially just catching fire in Lower Manhattan. It sent thick black smoke into the air. It was close to one of New York City's busiest areas. Emergency services rushed to the scene and put the fire out eventually. But yeah, very scary. A lot of you saying that looks like an electric car to me. I wonder if it was. Also tonight, TikTok influencer, what do you mean you've never heard of her? Gabby Gonzalez and her father have been arrested over an alleged plot to murder her ex-boyfriend, a guy called Jack Avery, who sings a song called Why Don't We? The influencer, she has nearly 900,000 followers, was arrested by officials in LA on Monday, and her father, Francisco Gonzalez, was also arrested on the same day on an out-of-state fugitive warrant. In other news, former US Congressman Barney Frank, who was one of the first known openly gay representatives, has died aged 86. He was a Democrat who represented southern Massachusetts in the House of Representatives for over 3 decades. And finally,
you got me begging you for mercy. Why won't you release me? You got me begging you for mercy. Why won't you?
Back in the UK, Welsh singer Duffy has just confirmed that she's making a music comeback after a decade, over a decade after that last record was released. She's remained out of the public eye since the early 2000s after being kidnapped, drugged and sexually abused. Oh, I'd forgotten that. Great song. I'd totally forgotten that story. Yeah, she's been out of the public eye for 10 years. Well, good for her, coming back. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
We weren't really running against Ed Gowron. We weren't running against Donald Trump. We were running for what we believe in.
This story is massive here in America tonight. It is a vicious election that was held in Kentucky, and it sent shockwaves across America. It could also offer a stark warning to Reform UK. More on that in just a moment. Also, still ahead tonight.
We need to do more. We're not protecting children enough.
There's Starmer again trying to ban stuff, this time children from social media altogether. New research uncovered a disturbing new side effect that experts say could be directly linked to endless scrolling online. That's coming up shortly. This is The Late Show Live. No adverts, remember. Only... First, though, before all of that, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing to reduce the number of American troops committed to NATO's collective defence force. Officials are expected to tell allies at a NATO defence policy meeting on Friday that Washington will scale back its role in the force model, which is a pool of forces available to repel an attack on a member state, amid growing pressure for European nations to take on more of their own security, the burden of it. It remains unclear how quickly the US will reduce its commitment, but President Trump has previously ordered the withdrawal of 5,000 troops from Germany, and the Pentagon recently cancelled the deployment of 4,000 soldiers to Poland. Currently, there are roughly 36,000 American troops in Germany, 12,500 in Italy, 10,000 in Poland, and 3,500 in Spain. With me now is former US Navy Rear Admiral Mike Hewitt. Mike, thank you for joining me. How significant is it that America are talking about withdrawing troops, and in fact have said that they aren't? There's about 4,000 troops that were going to Poland. They're now not going to send them. What does it tell us about this administration's vision for defence?
I think it tells us a lot of things. I think there's some deep-seated differences between many of the nations in NATO, particularly the UK, France, Germany, and the US when it comes to national security. And I think some of this goes all the way back to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, where many of the NATO allies, and including President Biden, sat on the sideline and watched Russia prepare to invade Ukraine. And so I think what President Trump is indicating is that there needs to be a reset, perhaps more importantly, of NATO's vision of itself than the US's commitment to the country. And I also think that he's looking for more burden sharing among the European allies and America. Right now, the US provides 62% of the total NATO defense spend among the 30 nations. And so I think it tells me two things. One, there needs to be a reset of the vision of NATO to more come in alignment with US national security interest. And perhaps the war in Iran really uncovered some deep-seated differences and maybe a lack of moral clarity between our European allies in the United States when they refuse to allow us to operate out of their bases that we've established for 50 years in support of our Iran effort. We didn't ask them to help us with the war, but they certainly made it harder for us in those first 60 days.
Absolutely. And in fact, J.D. Vance, Vice President, was asked at the briefing yesterday when he stood in for Caroline Levitt by a Polish reporter who was very animated about the fact that Poland wasn't going to get 4,000 troops that they'd been promised. And this is a huge issue over there in Poland. And J.D. Vance's answer was unequivocal. And he said, we love the Polish people. We want to promote European ownership, sovereignty, and integrity. In other words, we're done looking after Europe. It is time for Europe to stand on their own 2 feet. That's the message we keep getting. And it doesn't seem it doesn't seem that it's lacking compassion, but it's almost a version of sort of tough love across the world. It is time for you now to stand up for yourselves. We have sustained you for too long, and we can't guarantee that we can do it forever. I wonder whether the European leaders are concerned about that, or do they take that rallying cry and feel empowered by it?
I would hope they feel a rallying cry and empowered by it, perhaps because of their lack of defense spending over the last several decades, living on the backs of U.S. defense, and then realizing when they need to put to sea to protect their own forces in Eastern Med after the invasion and the attacks in Iran, they couldn't even get a ship to sea. And so I think what we're really seeing here is perhaps some inward lurking by the NATO nations that they do need to have a stronger defense. The threats from NATO or threats to NATO aren't just Russia. It's communism, it's China. And unfortunately, many of the NATO leaders were more focused on climate change and social issues at the expense of having a strong defense. And I think in general, the Western European allies are becoming feckless. And I think the president wants to see them kind of lash up their own bootstraps and get back to what we needed them to be, which is self-reliant, but also a great ally of America.
Yeah, and I think that message from America is loud and clear. Thank you so much, Mike. Mike Hewitt there, former US Navy Rear Admiral. Thanks for joining us this evening. Let me talk to my panel about this. I think Mike makes a good point there, and actually what it makes me consider, Matthew, is that schism between America and Europe has never been sort of more obvious and visual as it is right now. America is, we've joked about that, they're trying to fix the world, but ultimately you get the feeling they do want to eventually just come back to America first once they've got a few jobs done, and when that is done they want Europe to be able to defend itself.
Well, you know, as you recall, Bev, Secretary of State Marco Rubio went to Europe and made a grand speech about how Europe can be great. One of the things that I think about when I think about our foreign presence abroad in bases in military entanglements with our allied nations is the sheer economic activity that happens when you drop 5,000, 12,000, 15,000 American servicemen and women into a place like Germany, across Germany. What kind of economic activity that then supports the European nanny state that exists in a country like that? I think there is a subversive or a subconscious desire to pull back that economic activity and force some nations maybe to reconsider the form of government they're embracing, particularly member states in the European Union.
Matt Torbett, what do you make of that accusation, the nanny state governments of Europe? But the point about the economics, is a good one. Like you say, if you've got 10,000 troops in Italy, your point, Matt, then therefore they need services, they need supplies, they need they will shop in that town, they will exist as citizens in that area. I imagine they're a pretty good addition to any European town, Matt.
Yes, you would say so, and I think the argument for if it was an argument over, you know, you guys need to start contributing more, I sort of hear that argument. I suppose the other side of that is America's the big cheese, so if you're the boss, well then it's sort of on you as well to put your own things in, because ultimately it's you that's got the most to lose, I would argue. With NATO looking in on itself, as the previous guest just said, I think there has been a couple of mistakes made, but at the same time I think this is largely going off President Trump's statements more recently. This is about Greenland because NATO stood up to him and didn't want him to go and take a sovereign land, which is ironic considering J.D. Vance's comments yesterday about we want sovereignty and we want to respect that unless it's someone else's country. And the other aspect is we're splitting hairs a little bit with the use of US air bases, but when it comes to Donald Trump saying you didn't get involved with us, you didn't come to our aid, NATO is a defensive force. Nobody attacked a NATO country, therefore there isn't that need to respond. I think he was annoyed that he went in on his own, and ultimately the Strait of Hormuz is closed and he's still on his own.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, Angelina. What do you make of that relationship, NATO and America?
I mean, as we detach more away from NATO, you see, again, we go to Mark Carney's statements that he's made earlier this year, making way for the middle powers, or room for the middle powers, and you're seeing a lot more European countries visit China. So you've had a number of Europeans go that route. So again, as Matt said, we are the big honcho, we are the big cheese. Do we still want to be the world, the world leader, or do we want, European nations to have to depend more on China, or do we want to isolate our allies a bit more?
And
Candice,
actually, on
what
that,
do you
Beth,
think?
Oh, sorry. Very quickly.
Yeah, go on.
Who benefits from this if it was to weaken NATO? It isn't Donald Trump necessarily. Who benefits and is rubbing their hands is Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, because they would love nothing more than a weakened defence force in Europe. And if Donald Trump thinks it won't come to his door eventually, Danish Secret Service have been very clear over the next few years they would expect Russia to continue to try to take Ukraine. They will do that and then move on to Poland, where they may need those 4,000 troops at the bare minimum.
Yeah. Candice, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I agree so much with what Matt in America said. I think that, Marco Rubio came over to Europe, made an incredible speech about, he had a vision for a revitalized West, Europe and America together. And I think that the European countries have just sort of rejected it. I feel like we're always wallowing in some sort of malaise, like we feel like, our best days are behind us and we can't act in the world anymore. And I think that what Israel and the US did in Iran was the right thing to do. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And I could not believe that European countries made their stand on this. And I think that Donald Trump pulling back from NATO was 100% foreseeable after some of the things that they said. And I just did not understand it. I did not know why they couldn't be pragmatic about the whole thing.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have said that. Now, moving on, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live, one of the only Republicans willing to publicly defy Donald Trump on several issues has been brutally taken down. So tonight, what does Thomas Massey's crushing defeat tell all of us? And why could it be a warning for reform? Also, still to come this evening, Harry and Meghan are celebrating 8 years of marriage with a flood of never-before-seen wedding photos. But as the glossy images go public, so do fresh questions about the Sussexes' increasingly Hollywood-style royal brand. Why are they showing us now? Kinsey Schofield is going to be talking to me about that, and we know that you love Kinsey. Don't go anywhere. We just like to keep you awake. Ding, ding, ding. It just wakes you up. If you're nodding off on the sofa, we've just woken you up. Right, let's delve into the main stories in the front of tomorrow's newspapers, shall we? Starting with the front of the Daily Mail, which is reporting that a Russian fighter jet flew within 20 feet of an RAF rivet joint aircraft, thought to be the closest confrontation between the country's air forces. The incident was reported on the same day that the government was accused of watering down sanctions on Russian oil. Are we going to talk about that story? Okay. Now, I don't know much about this story at the moment, so bear with me while we have a look. Maybe my London panel are aware of what happened here. Sure. Matthew?
The loosening of the sanctions. I'm yet to see why you're rewarding Vladimir Putin. I appreciate Keir Starmer is in a tricky bind at the moment domestically. The Iran war has has only ratcheted that up further. But maybe he's ran out of time to keep blaming Donald Trump, and I did well to stand up to him because it isn't sort of playing well anymore. This sort of stuff with regards to the plane, Russia have been doing for a long time now, just sort of, I suppose, is willy waving and sort of, we can do this if we want. We've seen it with the tankers in the Channel, going down to try and sort of test cables and try and damage cables. And part of me sort of thinks, well, if they want to do that, that's fine, because their armed forces is quite depleted at the moment in the Ukrainian war. And if they're taking more and more things away from that, well, it sort of probably benefits Ukraine and therefore maybe the rest of us. So, no, it's more of the same from the Russians. It's a very familiar tactic. It just concerns me we may be, further boosting their coffers somewhat more with this loosening of sanctions.
Yes.
See, the reason I'm a bit baffled by this story, well, A, I'm reading it for the first time now, but also I just think this is what are the Daily Mail doing here, right? What are the Daily Mail doing with this headline? So they're telling us again to be terrified of Russia, fair enough, but they're also basically saying that Labour, this is an anti-Labour story, because they're saying this is the same day. But that's my point. But they're kicking sand in everyone's eyes, aren't they? I don't like that. Labour was accused of funding Moscow's war machine against Ukraine by watering down sanctions on Russian oil. But look how scary Russia is, because it nearly crashed into one of our planes. And like you say, Matt, they do this kind of near-miss stuff all the time. Go on, Matthew.
Brand new stuff for me here too, but this is often what we see from powers that are adversarial to Western values. We see this in North Korea. We see it with Russia. We see it with China, particularly in its relationship with Taiwan. The kind of saber rattling, and who is to blame, and what happens if they're empowered. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the front page.
But that's why I'm a bit baffled. Candice, can you shed any light on this story, do you think?
Yes, yeah, well, it seems to be about, it's an attack on Labour. It's basically saying, you know, you're lifting sanctions, yet they're our big foe, look what they're doing. But I think what the Ukraine war has exposed is that Russia is not quite the formidable military power it likes to think it is. But I also think as well, I do worry that Britain doesn't project enough strength, and this is why they think that they can do what they do.
Yeah. Angelina, do you want to come in on this bizarre Russia nearly crashes into a British plane story on the same day that Labour are talking about lifting sanctions?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly what everyone said. You know, Russia is possibly pulling a stunt. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but we should definitely be concerned about Russia. I think that the EU should definitely be concerned about Russia. UK should be definitely concerned about Putin and his possible expansion plans into Europe.
I do want to look at the front page of The Guardian, though, as well, because there's a really, really sad story about 3 girls that died in the sea, which we'll look at in the next hour. You might have seen that story. Really bizarre. It was 3 young women who were found drowned in the sea off the south coast of the UK. And we now know who they are and what happened. More to come in the next hour, including that story and also this.
We weren't really running against Ed Galrine. We weren't running against Donald Trump. We were running for what we believe in.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Vox Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Rain and cloud across northern areas through today. Will feel warm wherever you are, but particularly in the south where there will be a bit more sunshine. And there's more of that sunshine to come as we head towards the bank holiday weekend. We've still got this weather front though pushing up to the north and east through this afternoon. Outbreaks of rain, relatively light, but there will be quite a lot of cloud around with this weather front as well. When further rain pushes up towards Ireland, Northern Ireland, up through Irish Sea coast, there'll be a lot of cloud this afternoon. In the south and east, it will feel quite warm in the sunshine, temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s, and those temperatures will only rise over the next few days. Now, through this evening, that rain continues to push up across more northwestern areas, so there's still going to be quite a lot of cloud around, particularly across western coast. I think the east will see some clearer spells, but a risk of the odd burst of showery rain. Quite mild wherever you are this evening, 16 or 15 degrees for many northern areas. Still in the 20s, though, as we look further south, where there'll be some late evening sunshine with high pressure starting to build in for many central and southern areas of the UK as those weather fronts push further and further north. So it will become more widely drier as we head into Friday. Still, as I mentioned, quite a lot of cloud up through Irish Sea coast, so a bit of a murky start for some western coasts. Across the east, though, a clear and dry start to the day. Temperatures in the mid-teens for many of us to start the day as well. So a pretty mild night to come Thursday night into Friday morning. Now the sunshine continues for many central and eastern areas through Friday. In the west there will be a bit more cloud. I think it will still feel quite bright actually though across parts of Wales and the southwest. And that rain, after a damper start to the day, it does turn drier across far northern areas, but still cooler than elsewhere across Northern Ireland and the northwest of Scotland, but 28 degrees in the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Oh, you was there. There you are. I've had a very hot, long day today. Ben, Leo and I have been filming on an open-top bus just for membership. We've done a brilliant film behind the scenes, and so we will bring you that very soon. But I've been outside in 90 degrees all day. Sorry about that. Right, moving on, news stories. Castro charged. Cuba's former president, Raul Castro, is charged with murdering American civilians in a Cold War-era airstrike.
Charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
This story is very big here in the US tonight. Donald Trump's hand-picked candidate has crushed Republican rebel Thomas Massie in a brutal MAGA loyalty test, also raising questions about Reform UK in Britain.
We weren't really running against Ed Galrine. We weren't running against Donald Trump. We were running for what we believe in.
The great screen lockdown, Britain tonight edging even further towards an Australian-style social media ban for children.
We need to do more. We're not protecting children enough.
And the royal love story that we've maybe had enough of. Harry and Meghan are celebrating 8 years of marriage. Who'd have thought they'd get to 8 years? And they're showing us in celebration some never-before-seen wedding snaps. Why now? I'm going to talk to Kinsey Schofield about that. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Yes, as I said then, Ben, Leo and I have been doing some extra filming for you today. We've done a lovely little package for you about seeing around Washington, D.C. We want to take you with us to some of our favourite places, and it involves places like the White House, the Washington Memorial, this city. We just have a minute. I know this isn't in the script, but this city is so beautiful. The architecture here is so incredible, Matthew.
It's absolutely beautiful, and what a tremendous opportunity for some of the viewers to be able to see you and the personalities, you and Ben together in Washington, D.C. It's probably a must-watch. I can't wait to see it.
We were so hot, I can't describe. It was like it was 90 degrees. It's like 36, 37 degrees here today. We were on an open top bus. We were dying of heat exhaustion, but it's so worth it. This city, Angelina, is gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, and I love watching the monuments and the Capitol building and the White House during sunset, because the white buildings just absorb the colors of the sunset, and they turn pink and orange, and it's just so beautiful. But I feel like it's all a bit too new for you, being British, right? All the buildings are
the fact that they're less than 250 years old. Yeah, you're amateurs.
Bit too modern.
Absolute amateurs. Yeah, but it's just so beautiful. You can see them behind me. Anyway, we will let you know. Ben is obviously on air tomorrow night, and we'll let you know when that video is going to be online. Right, moving on to this big story, been trailing it all evening. President Donald Trump has helped crush another Republican critic after his hand-picked candidate, Ed Galrine, a former Navy SEAL, defeated Congressman Thomas Massie in one of the most expensive and bitter primary races in modern American history. More than $33 million was spent after Massie publicly broke with Trump over spending and the Epstein files, with the president personally targeting him for months and warning Republicans against defying him. And tonight, the result is raising questions far beyond Kentucky. Because as Nigel Farage's Reform UK continues to rise in Britain, could America be showing us what happens when political movements become built around loyalty to one dominant leader? You have been there this week, Matthew Hurt. Tell us what it's been like, and would you tell our British audience why this story is so huge?
There are a couple of important points I want to make, Bev. In the United States, we have a winner-take-all, first-past-the-post, two-party system. Anybody who wants to play in American politics does it either in the Republican Party or in the Democrat Party. That is not the case in parliamentary-style governments where you can establish a third or fourth or fifth party. And so what we end up seeing is a bit of ideological diversity within and among the Republican and the Democratic Party. Now, what is interesting to note is that on the issues, Thomas Massie voted with President Trump 91% of the time. But on several important issues, in particular issues that I've spoken about on this show before, the Epstein files, which have taken down dozens of government leaders, business leaders, and others in Europe, Thomas Massie was one of the only voices in Congress who was raising awareness on the issue of foreign surveillance and, in fact, domestic surveillance. Thomas Massie often broke with the party. And on the issue of spending, we are spending our way into $39 trillion and more into debt. And so he raised these questions. And what often happened on the floor of the House of Representatives, rather than exciting question time, Thomas Massie would engage in procedural maneuvers to either hold up a vote or to force a vote. And this happened in March of 2020 when COVID onset. The Speaker of the House at the time, Democrat Nancy Pelosi, wanted the members of Congress to vote by what they call unanimous consent without being in the chamber to lock down the country. And Thomas Massie drove to Washington, D.C. and forced an in-person vote. He's a very important figure in Republican politics. This was an unfortunate and expensive race. I was in Kentucky for a week. Thomas has been a friend of mine for 14 days, but for 14 years. And this is what is so important in American American politics is people are involved cyclically. Thomas got involved during the Ron Paul libertarian wave in 2008 and 2012, and he's off the scene after about 7 months. And that was one of the things he said last night at his concession speech. I exposed more than a dozen people involved with Epstein over the last 6 months. I've got 7 more months to go. So I think he's going to get a little more, what he used to call sassy with Massey. I think he's going to get a little more sassy on the floor of the House.
So how would you describe his politics? So he's kind of like, he's a true sort of libertarian, really, isn't he? But he's not MAGA, but he's conservative.
Well, he endorsed President Trump in 2024. He's supported the president in the past, and on 9 out of 10, 91% of the time, he votes with Republicans. When it comes to foreign intervention, like what's going on in Iran, when it comes to the Epstein files, when it comes to ridiculous spending, he breaks with the party, and I think that's really what upset the president.
Yeah, Angelina, what do you make of it? How familiar are you with Thomas Massey? What do Americans think of him?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey is incredibly popular. He's popular internationally. People talk about this man because a lot of people, they don't like leftist politics. And Thomas Massey was a Republican, a conservative, that he did break away from the Trump agenda. So he's like, no, we are going to call out the Epstein files. We are going to talk about, Thomas Massey talks a lot about how different organizations tied to Israel were donating to his opposition, right? So he says, talking about America First policies over Israel First policies have been, super problematic to his campaign. It's also an interesting thing, though, is he lost by a small margin, and with voters 55 and under, he won by a landslide. So it's showing the big shift in the MAGA party. Now, look, it's important.
Just tell me this again. Tell me those numbers again there, the age groups.
So 55 and under, Massey won by a landslide. Over 55, that was for Trump's back candidate. I even saw one interview where someone asked an older woman, why did you vote for this candidate? And she's like, I don't really know anything about him, but Trump said that I should vote for him, so I did. So you're seeing the older generation kind of tied to that MAGAism, where you're seeing the newer generation. And that's what I loved about Thomas Massey's speech last night. Something that he said last night was that the future is not about bipartisan politics, right? He gives a hopeful note for the future, and this is something that I think MAGA and Trump administration really need to look at when they're thinking about their presidential legacy. Because remember, this is a small district in northern Kentucky, right? Now look at the Republican Party more on a mass scale, nationwide. Thomas Massey has a huge following, and he got tons of donations from people from states from all around the U.S. You had people travel, like Matt, for example, you had people traveling to go and support this campaign, to go knock door to door, to go speak to voters. So just the national presence that Thomas Massey was able to pull in this tiny district in northern Kentucky, where again, it's not representative of the American population, and he is winning the young vote by a landslide. And a lot of conservative voters right now feel politically homeless. And you hear me speaking with a lot of passion about this because, as I've spoken before, is I come from a conservative background, and I know a lot of these voters who are very frustrated with the current system. They feel politically homeless. They don't feel like they belong with the right anymore and the MAGA political agenda, and they definitely don't feel at home with the right. And Massey was that face. He's that new voice of hope for the Conservative Party. So yeah, this is a very telling race, and I don't think it's the end for Massey.
I'm not massively familiar with him, although I know that he's somewhat of an idol to my kind of libertarian, anti-lockdown, anti-vaxxer crowd. A lot of my friends think he's the hero incarnate, Thomas Massey, but he's largely not come across my radar. How about you guys in the UK? Candice, are you familiar with Thomas Massey?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I know who he is. Although lately, I must say, just watching from Britain, I feel like he's sort of taken a bit of a conspiratorial turn, and I think that some of his language, particularly around Israel, has been alarming, and American Jewish friends of mine have really been concerned about it. You know, the rise of what they think is anti-Semitism on the right in American politics, and, you know, that certain factions in the Republican Party are moving away from Israel.
Yeah, I mean, is it anti-Semitism though, Matthew, or Hurt, or is it anti-Netanyahu foreign policy? Because the two are quite different.
I do think that as a non-interventionist libertarian, Thomas Massie was very skeptical of any and all foreign aid, including to Ukraine, including to Israel, and especially the situation in Iran. And I think that's where we saw the dichotomy, is was just explained, between voters over 55 supporting Ed Galrein, the gentleman who won the primary, and voters under 55 overwhelmingly supporting Thomas Massie. But there's a serious policy conversation to be had about Israel's role in foreign policy adventurism that I think doesn't stray to anti-Semitism. And I think that there are some individuals, and certainly nobody on this program tonight, but some individuals who would immediately say, oh, you'd like to criticize foreign policy involved with Israel, that's anti-Semitic. And I think the debate in the United States got a little blurry in this primary.
Matt Torbit, the point I made about the fact that if you have one person, be that President Trump or Nigel Farage, who is this big, larger-than-life kind of talismanic character, the likes of Thomas Massie can become a needle in their side, and they can actually do quite a lot of damage.
Of course they can. And in fact, we've not quite seen the same in the Labour Party, but I remember on election night saying a large PLP is not necessarily a happy one. That is more people you've got to try and keep happy. And as we've seen in blocks with the Labour Party, we've had these sort of rebellions from the backbenchers. So there can be thorns in your side. I think the most amazing thing about this is it's the most expensive primary ever. The ad spend alone was $33 million. AIPAC, obviously involved with the American-Israelis, put 7 million alone in, or 9 million, and Trump's lot put 7 million in. Crazy level. I remember standing for trying to be a parliamentary candidate for the Labour Party. I think the max you could spend was about $2,000. It just looks like a pittance in comparison. And I'm not absolutely au fait with Thomas Massie, but he's been on President Trump's hit list for a while. And as we know, Trump totally, I mean, he makes the... He holds a grudge like the elephant that never forgot. Looks like it's got early onset compared to President Trump. He remembers everything. He's had a good hit rate with these primaries. I think there's only one that's not gone his way at the moment. So it makes you worry about all the rest that he's got his eyes on, really, if you're one of them. Yeah.
Does he have others he's got his eyes on?
Well, just over the weekend, on Saturday, President Trump waded into a U.S. Senate election, a primary in Louisiana, and the sitting U.S. senator who voted to convict President Trump as he was on his way out the door in the first term was defeated. Not only was he defeated, he came in third place. Several weeks prior to that, in Indiana, there were 7 state Senate elections, and President Trump, they basically refused to redistrict these 7 or 8 state senators, and President Trump's back candidates defeated 5 incumbents. So yes, President Trump weighs heavily into these primaries, and especially if it has something to do with a policy or something that he's trying to get across the finish line in Washington.
Does the situation in Kentucky, though, the fact that Trump's guy won, does it show that you have to have Trump's backing? Like it's still effectively, it's not these individuals that are going to win these primaries. It is still the name of President Trump is going to win these seats for you, and boy, do you need him on side.
I think that perhaps you can make that argument in some of these races. I think what it will especially do to any Republican who gets elected in November in the midterms is it will silence any dissent among Republicans in the House of Representatives, our lower chamber. And if the Republicans hold the chamber by 1 or 2 votes, you're not going to have somebody like a Thomas Massie who is going to hold up an issue on process.
Well, very interesting. How was Thomas Massie when he got beaten? We saw some of the speech there. He didn't look sort of defeated. He was still talking about the fact that what he had stood on was principle now.
Well, encouraged. He's a kind guy, and I'll say this: he gets to go back to his farm for a little bit and spend time with his wife and the kids. And there's plenty of things for him to do. He's an MIT-educated engineer, and I'm sure he could build some robots.
Does this situation, or this case, this story, Angelina, play into the hands of those who say that President Trump cannot work with anybody that even slightly disagrees with him, that he's got dictator tendencies, etc.? How will this be used by the left?
I mean, that's interesting. I look at all the places that did win. I think that's an important focus. Like, they all are right, specifically right-leaning areas. Louisiana. Into Mike Pence, speaking of the devil, look what happened to him. So look at definitely 100%. Trump requires 100% blind loyalty. So I'm not sure how the Democrats will play this, but it is worrisome for, again, the Republican Party, because they're building a party based on this blind loyalty. And I think we've spoken about this before, Bev. What happens when this legacy, they are talking about 2028 and the next presidential election. If it is not Trump, then will it even hold the same kind of power over the people in order to push to a presidential win?
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the messages coming in here. Keep them coming. GBNews.com/your say. Yeah, I'll come to those in just a moment. Let's just quickly move on, though. Still to come this evening, Harry and Meghan are celebrating 8 years of marriage by releasing a series of never-before-seen wedding pictures, giving the public a fresh glimpse inside the royal fairy tale that, frankly, they walked away from. Don't go anywhere.
Need to do more. We're not protecting children enough. So the question for me is not whether we do something, we are going to do something. We're also working on things like addictive, because algorithms in social media that try to keep adults and children on social media. For 0 to 2-year-olds, there shouldn't really be any screen time at all. Then from 2 to 5, what we're suggesting in the guidelines is about an hour a day and no more.
That was a really strange day. The Prime Minister just a few weeks ago talking about screen time with mums and a load of toddlers walking around. He lost the room, didn't he, frankly, because MPs are calling for a legal ban on social media for under 16s, warning that tech firms cannot be trusted to regulate themselves. A cross-party committee says online harms facing children are now widespread, severe and systemic, pointing to bullying, exploitation and addictive platform features. The report also backs stricter phone rules in schools, with ministers expected to bring forward legislation on social media restrictions later this year. And also breaking tonight, a new report has found that the instant success felt from social media is fueling a quitting culture amongst a younger generation. Well, I could have told them that. Right, let's come to our panel on this. Social media ban, Angelina, is it up to the government to decide whether teenagers should or should not, or younger, like under 16s, teens and children should use social media? Because you know what, they're just going to find a way around it anyway.
I mean, it's really, really a hard question. Like, look at today's, day and age. First of all, let's talk about Sweden. Sweden moved away recently from digital learning, because just digital learning, not social media, which is its own toxic bubble, but just digital learning hinders mental development, reading comprehension, and other intellectual development. So just that, let alone social media opening that Pandora's box. Now you also have the problem of extremism. I might even take it a step further and say, hey, I don't think kids should be on video game platforms where there's interaction with strangers and you can have conversations with strangers. There should be an age restriction as that as well, is because even, again, you just saw 2 youths in San Diego who were radicalized online. They literally, the teenagers I read, they met on a gaming console. So you have this radicalization, and then for the women or the young girls, it's also very problematic. You have kind of all these girls looking the same, wearing the same makeup, trying to achieve the same beauty standards, having different insecurities, and the way that social media algorithms work, right? So if I'm on TikTok and I want to maybe lose a bit of weight, get a bit healthier, all of a sudden I'm going to see video after video after video about, something related to diets, or how I can lose more weight, or how I can look better, or how they call it maxing, right? Looks maxing. That's the new trend that the teenagers are doing. Is they post photos of themselves on the internet or in group chats, social media, being like, how can I looks max? And that's openly asking for critiques from the public on how attractive they are and what they can do to make themselves more attractive.
It's just grotesque. The thing that I remember hearing a story once where about one of the social media companies, Instagram or one of them, what the phone can do, if a teenage girl, let's say, takes a selfie, or any of us actually, takes a selfie and they don't like it and they go, and they delete that selfie, the phone knows in that moment of vulnerability and insecurity about how they look to push a product on them. So it might be a new lipstick, a new mascara, a moisturiser with products in it, which frankly 11-year-old skin should be nowhere near. And that is so pernicious that I start to lean towards the government banning it for under 16s. But Matthew, I'm deeply uncomfortable with that, of course, because how do you verify who you are? You have to show your face. You have to declare a photograph to show that you're under 16, and that frankly cannot be done unless we're all doing it and then we're all signed up to the system.
Yeah, Bev, you make an excellent point here. I just tend to side with individuals making decisions for themselves, or in this case, parents making decisions for their children. And when you are a regulator, when you are the hammer, everything looks like a nail, and especially in a labor government. There are people, maybe not right now, but certainly tomorrow morning, who will go into the office and think, how can I regulate this? And if we regulate Instagram and Facebook and X and whatever else, what else can we regulate? And I just trend against government bureaucrats regulating activity that should be the responsibility of the individual, or in this instance, of the parents.
This is one of those questions, Matt, that as you know, it really, I'm very conflicted about it, because with my libertarian hat on, I don't want the government banning anything, but I can also, as a parent of 3, I know the damage it does. I know the addiction it causes to these kids. What do we do about it?
I mean, I believe, and I haven't seen the more recent figures, that they've seen some good signs in Australia with the ban that they've had. And I appreciate that there are ways around this, and kids aren't daft. They're always cleverer than what we give them credit for, certainly. I know I was compared to my parents, and that just carries on with the next lot. But I know there has been a shift down of people not using it. I'm also hearing in this country about kids obviously handing their phones in at the start of the school day. Lots of them now having them taken off them. Lots of schools are complying with that. And then they're leaving school, having had a good day socialising, and sort of going, I don't really need the phone, and kids are turning away. I actually think the broader story, maybe it's just because it's that time in the morning now and I'm getting grumpy, we need to ban adults off social media, because people's attention spans have gone to the wall, right? And I know we've got an increase of ADHD and other stuff like that. Nobody can focus. Nobody can not have a conversation without quickly checking who that is that's texting. It is melting people's minds, and we're becoming angrier as a society. And I get the struggle with regulation, but at the same time, if they are going to game the algorithm to the point where it's going to provoke that visceral reaction from people, I don't know what else we can do other than aim to regulate.
We have not, as a species of human beings, had enough conversations from the moment these mobile phones arrived as to what it was going to do to us, literally, physiologically, neurologically. We have so been caught napping. I don't know what government it would have been in power when we all started normalising mobile phones. Would it have been Tony Blair? When did you get your first mobile phone, Candice?
Gee, I mean, that was a long time ago, but I mean, it was like before social media. I mean, it was like very basic. You could text, you could play Snake on it. I mean, you weren't really that addicted to it.
I think it was about 95, 96 when I first had mine, and I held off for quite a long time. I think I had a Nokia brick. What about you, Matthew?
I mean, I played Snake with Nokia, but I remember having a cell phone in high school so that I could contact and be in touch with my parents. But it was really the iPhone, you know, when Steve Jobs went to the stage and said, this is going to revolutionize technology by combining all of these things. And now, you know, many of these games or apps are incentivized to get you to stay engaged. And in some instances, they're in-app purchases and other things like that then keep you involved and engaged. So we've come a long way in, I think, 20 to 25 years. The phone has become ubiquitous, and it isn't just a phone to call your mom or your dad. It's a phone that connects you to absolutely everything.
I think the only way we can do it is personal responsibility. Yeah. Yesterday morning, it's the only way we can do it is just to take responsibility, like we do with our diet and our exercise and our sleep and how much we drink or whatever it is. We've got to return to a messaging that nobody else is going to do this for you. You have to somehow find the willpower to do it yourself. I have 2 mobile phones here. I have an American one and I have a British one, right? I can't work them terribly well here, and I ran out of data. Let me just give you a little anecdote. Yesterday, it's a bloody nightmare, right? I ran out of data on both of them. At the same time, I haven't paid the Wi-Fi bill in my apartment because I have no time to do anything. So yesterday morning, no Wi-Fi in my house when I woke up. Nothing. Do you know what I did? I read a few pages of a book with my cup of tea in the morning. I couldn't even turn on the TV because the TV's connected to the Wi-Fi. And I realised after like a couple of hours in the house, I washed my bed sheets and I unstacked the dishwasher and I did all the usual stuff I did. But I wasn't being constantly drawn back and interrupted all the time because, and yes, it was difficult and I was anxious because I hadn't spoken to the family and I knew I needed to get into the office quickly so I could start dealing with work and everything else. There was that anxiety. But the mental clarity that I had was extraordinary, and that was just like in 3 or 4 hours of not being able to go back repeatedly to my phone. And I thought, I've got to make a habit of this. I've got to start every day if I can without my phone for a while. Am I going to have the willpower to do it? No, of course I'm not going to have the willpower to do it. Of course I'm not, because I'm constantly going to feel taken back to them. And I said to my children, I sent my daughters, the irony of this, I sent them a little video on Instagram that was of a family talking about the fact that they have what they call the 1990s day, where they take their phones and they say, we're going to have a day like it's the 90s, and they leave all their tech behind, they go in the car, they say they have to use a map. They can't phone anyone. And the guy that was telling the story, the dad, he said, we're in the middle of conversations and I'm starting to tell them something and I reached for my phone because, like you said, Matt, he said I wanted to give them an example or show them the picture or show them the video. And he said, and I realised I couldn't. I had to find the words to articulate it. And I sent it to my 17-year-old and my 15-year-old. I said, we're going to do this. My 17-year-old said, I'm not going back to the 90s. I'd rather go back to 1940s Germany. In other words, I'm going to pick the worst time and the worst place in history. That's where we're going back to. Because the idea of a day with her parents, effectively, without a phone, was so horrifying for her. And that is the resistance that we come across as parents with this thing. And I don't know what the solution is. Candice?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, my children are still really young, so I can really limit their screen time. And I feel like amongst millennials, there's a bit of a movement now to get kids off screens. You know, I remember years and years ago, people were like, oh, I want my kids to be on social media because I want them to get good at it. And, you know, people would give them technology. Now it's like, that would be terrible parenting. You don't want to do that. So I think that the shift sort of has to happen culturally. I really want to read the book by the late Charlie Kirk, where he spoke about having that time with his family from Friday to Saturday, where no one uses any technology and they bond together as a family. And I think that that's really, really important. And it's so true. It's not just kids that are addicted to technology, it's adults. Like, how many kids are trying to get their parents' attention and the parents are just absorbed in their phone? That's also a new thing. And I think that, yeah, we all need to take a step back. We're all way too addicted.
I do wonder if we will look back in several decades' time and go, wow. I think there might have been a backlash. We go, what did we do during that period of time, the 2000s, the 2010s and so on? I don't know when. Maybe it'll be 2030. Everything else seems to be changing in 2030. Maybe we've only got 4 more years left. Right, let's have a quick look at some of the other main news here in America tonight. This footage of a car exploding near Wall Street in Manhattan. It caught fire, absolutely went up in the biggest, thickest, blackest cloud of smoke. Incredible. As far as we know, there was nobody injured, but the emergency services got there, you know, sharpish, as you would imagine, and managed to put out the fire. A lot of you online tonight speculating that must have been an electric car fire. Also tonight, TikTok influencer Gabby Gonzalez and her father have been arrested over an alleged plot to murder her ex-boyfriend, the singer Jack Avery, who sings Why Don't We? The influencer has nearly 900,000 followers. She was arrested by officials in LA on Monday, and her father was also arrested on the same day on an out-of-state In other news, former US Congressman Barney Frank, he was one of the first known openly gay representatives, has died aged 86. He was a Democrat who represented southern Massachusetts in the House of Representatives for over 3 decades. And finally,
you got me begging you for mercy. Why won't you release me? You got me begging you for mercy. Why won't you?
that's the Welsh singer Duffy, but she was a big star all around the world. She's confirmed that she's making a music comeback. It's more than 10 years after her last record was released. And she remained out of the public eye since the early 2000s because she was kidnapped, drugged and sexually abused. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. The King has continued his visit to Northern Ireland today, but it's fair to say the trip may not have gone entirely to plan after an unexpected encounter with a very bold seagull. Also tonight, Harry and Meghan have released a fresh batch of unseen wedding pictures to celebrate their 8-year anniversary. Brings back all the feels. That what a great day. It just feels though now like every moment they give us is somehow a Netflix trailer. This is The Late Show Live. We'll be back with Kinsey Schofield after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Rain and cloud across northern areas through today. We'll feel warm wherever you are, but particularly in the south where there will be a bit more sunshine. And there's more of that sunshine to come as we head towards the bank holiday weekend. We've still got this weather front though pushing up to the north and east through this afternoon. Outbreaks of rain relatively light, but there will be quite a lot of cloud around with this weather front as well. When further rain pushes up towards Ireland, Northern Ireland, up through Irish Sea coast, there'll be a lot of cloud this afternoon. In the south and east, it will feel quite warm in the sunshine, temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s, and those temperatures will only rise over the next few days. Now, through this evening, that rain continues to push up across more northwestern areas, so there's still going to be quite a lot of cloud around, particularly across western coast. I think the east will see some clearer spells, but a risk of the odd burst of showery rain. Quite mild wherever you are this evening. 16 or 15 degrees for many northern areas, still in the 20s though as we look further south where there'll be some late evening sunshine with high pressures starting to build in for many central and southern areas of the UK as those weather fronts push further and further north, so it will become more widely drier as we head into Friday. Still, as I mentioned, quite a lot of cloud up through Irish Sea coast, so a bit of a murky start for some western coasts. Across the east though, a clear and dry start to the day, temperatures in the mid-teens for many of us to start the day as well, so a pretty mild night to come Thursday night into Friday morning. Now the sunshine continues for many central and eastern areas through Friday. In the west there will be a bit more cloud. I think it will still feel quite bright actually though across parts of Wales and the southwest, and that rain after a damper start to the day, it does turn drier across far northern areas but still cooler than elsewhere across Northern Ireland and the northwest of Scotland, but 28 degrees in the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. So Meghan Markle has shared a collection of previously never before seen wedding photographs to mark 8 years of marriage to Prince Harry. The images posted on the Instagram account show very intimate moments from the couple's 2018 Windsor Castle wedding and evening reception at Frogmore House. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex celebrated their anniversary at their California home alongside Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Meghan has also been busy travelling to Geneva this week for a World Health Organization event focused on online harm affecting children, where she had this to say.
How many more millions of children will be harmed by products that, while innovative, are still designed without sufficient safeguards? And when will children be able to enjoy the extraordinary potential of technology without it compromising their well-being? For too long, we've accepted a dangerous bargain that modern connection must come at the cost of the innocence of childhood, that innovation excuses injury, and that speed matters more than safety.
See, that's the Meghan Markle that we all thought we were going to get when they got married, wasn't it? Straightforward, aligning with some really great policies, some great areas, some issues that would have been important. And instead we got what, Candice Holsworth? What did we get instead?
Yeah, we sort of got like whining, victimhood. I mean, I got married in 2018. It seems like another world, like a kinder, gentler, simpler time. But I don't know, Meghan and Harry, there was so much goodwill behind them. People were absolutely thrilled. And for some reason, I don't know what happened with them, they convinced themselves that everyone was against them and they sort of threw everything away. You know, Meghan Markle, you know, she likes to fight for certain social causes. She says she's very much for social justice. Yet she abandoned the most powerful platform she could have had to fight for the things she cared about. It made no sense to me.
You know, Angelina, when we say where did it all go wrong, because these pictures genuinely do remind you, the British public thought this was the start of the modern monarchy. She was so cool, she was so beautiful. They looked so madly in love with each other. Where did it all go wrong?
I'm not really sure. You know, they're both, a lot of people do like Prince Harry. I can't really speak on that, but Meghan Markle hasn't really had a great touch with other people, right? She's very impersonal. She's not really relatable. I know her show on Netflix, a lot of people, they felt like it was very cringy. She also hasn't really been great at finding her voice as an actress, her own identity. So she also might, and I hate to say that about women in general, but sometimes they look to their partner to try and find that identity versus find it in themselves, which is what makes people unrelatable in general. The more authentic you are, the more you are able to relate to other people. It's that authenticity that shines through, and she just doesn't have that finesse.
We feel like we're being played by them, and these pictures are part of that, Matt Torbit, aren't they? It's like, okay, why now? Why are they doing this now? What are they trying to convince us of in 2026?
See, I don't know, maybe it's just me, and obviously I'm always in the minority, because I like him, I think he's picked a woman over his family, and that's not a very easy thing to do. It seems to me they're quite clearly in love, and they're paying the price for that. And I think that the thing with it is, you know, if you're in the royal family, you know, it all sounds great and whatever, and you're not got to worry for anything, but your life's not your own, and you can't just pick up the phone and speak to your nan or your brother. You've got to go through their team's diary, people, and then you get a few, you know, half an hour with them or whatever. And I can only assume Harry's grown up in a goldfish bowl like all the rest of them, and he'd had enough, or Meghan had had enough, and he's decided, well, she's what comes first. And I think there is something, whether we like it or not, and I know the royal family's close to lots of people's hearts, I think there's something honourable in choosing love, whatever that looks like, and that's why I sort of quite like him. I think you've made the ultimate sacrifice in many ways in doing that instead of sticking with your family.
And I think, and I, as you know, I would absolutely agree with that, except that I feel like they haven't quite done that. They want the best of both worlds. That's what I think the problem is. If they wanted to go away and genuinely not call the kids prince and princess, not try and trade on the HRH wherever they can, I would be full of admiration for them, absolutely full of admiration. But I think it's the problem is they want to have their cake and eat it, don't they? And thereby, and in the process of that, we feel a bit manipulated. Kinsey Schofield is with us now, delighted to say, journalist and podcast host, and a real favourite of our GB News viewers. Kinsey, thank you so much for joining us on this. We're just saying there, these pictures today, why Harry and Meghan have released them. What are they doing to us this time?
Well, Meghan's mate for life, poor Trevor Ingleson, her ex-husband, is sitting back going, what about me? I mean, I think that the ultimate objective is to prove that they are living happily ever after. There have been an aggressive amount of reports that suggest they're living separate lives. Then we see Meghan show up in Sweden without Prince Harry by her side. And that generated some new whispers. So I think that it's a combination of trying to prove a point, look, we're happily in love, but also them reminding us of their proximity to the British royal family, which they continue to monetize.
I see what you mean. And also, do you know what it has done for me emotionally, Kinsey? It's reminded me, actually, of why we did love them 8 years ago. Maybe they do want to remind us that, remember, you were on board with us, you can be on board with us again. But can we?
I think it's too little too late. You know, I talked Darren McGrady. He told me to say hi to you, the royal chef. He and I had a conversation, and we were talking about had they flip-flopped, had they done all of this positive, lovey, with love, Meghan, all of this philanthropy first, and years later complained about the British royal family, what a different path that would have been. But because they came out guns blazing and they were so negative at the start, we're having a hard time forgiving them for that, and we kind of see them as these very bitter and unhappy people.
I've heard from kind of royal insiders that where it all went wrong originally was them not accommodating, because they're fairly old-fashioned, sort of stuffy old establishment, clearly the royal family. They didn't want to accommodate Meghan's requirements or her request for her own PR team that would work alongside the royal press team. She wanted separate people, and she wanted to control her own image, and the royal family didn't accommodate that. When you look back now, you wonder whether the royal family could have worked a little harder with her, given that she was a famous American actress.
Girl, look at what her press team has done for her in the last 6 years. I would argue that the royal family is sitting back saying, told you so. Told you so. You should have allowed us to continue to control the narrative, because she has blown through PR people. She's blown through communications people, the Sussex Survivors Club, and she's still desperate to get the point across that she's a likable individual, and they're having a really tough job doing that.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And we've seen King Charles and Camilla out in Northern Ireland, I think. In fact, one of the front pages is drawing attention to the fact that King Charles was pooped upon by a seagull today, with the headline, King Charles the Turd, which I didn't think was terribly reverential to the great leader of our nation. But they're still doing a good job, Charles and Camilla, as they did with the state visit here, aren't they?
They are. I mean, I was going to joke that he's had plenty of you-know-what thrown at him over the last few years between Harry and Meghan and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's, you know, he's taken some hits. So a little pigeon poo is nothing on him. But I do think that they've done a really great job lately. And the D.C. trip specifically, I think it completely rebranded him. And we're seeing a bit of a legacy being built since then.
Yeah, absolutely, we are. Right, Kinsey, thank you so much. Kinsey Schofield there, thank you so much for joining us on The Late Show Live. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Now, thank you, more showbiz news, actually. This is sad. Kylie Minogue has revealed that she was diagnosed with cancer for a second time in 2021. Oh, I'm sorry, I've misunderstood this story. Diagnosed for a second time with cancer in 2021. I thought it meant she'd been diagnosed just now. The singer kept the diagnosis private at the time, more than 15 years after she was first treated for breast cancer in 2005. She opens up about the experience in a new Netflix documentary, saying that early detection and regular checks remain vital. So, Kylie Minogue, she got cancer in 2005. She got it again in 2021. I'm delighted to say, I thought this story was going to say she'd got a diagnosis again recently. I think for me, when Kylie Minogue got cancer, I think it was so shocking, Matthew Torbit, because there's something about Kylie that was perennially young. You know, she was just always she was always Charlene off Neighbours for us, like initially. She was always going to be young, she was always going to be fit and healthy and well. And when she got cancer, it's one of the few people, it just really stayed with me, it really shocked me. So I'm glad that she had a second diagnosis in 2021 and is so far fighting fit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and in a way it doesn't surprise me. She's never aged. Like I mean, I must confess, she was always my ultimate crush and still is. I love Kylie Minogue. Thankfully, my partner's gone to bed now. It's very early in the morning. It's a good job. But no, I think you have those moments, and you have. I suppose that's maybe the beauty of life. You think people will be around forever, and then I tell you what the weird one was for me. Growing up watching Michael Owen play football, because he was 18 when he was coming through and I'd have been, what, 9 or 10. Then when he retired, I thought, oh my God, I'm half dead. How's this happened? He's retired, he's been around forever, what's going on? And you have those weird moments where you go, right, yeah, life's moving very fast, and it's ultimately the main message is important. Get checked early and get checked soon.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some people, though, aren't they, in the public eye that really mess with your concept of time. I mean, it's Cher's 80th birthday as well. Like, how can Cher be 80, Angelina? And the other one that always I find really challenging to comprehend is Dolly Parton, the brilliant Dolly Parton, who doesn't appear to age, but is also in her 80s now. Who is it for you, Matthew?
I mean, it's Dolly Parton for me, being from Tennessee, and she's expressed via social media over the last few weeks that she's dealing with some health issues, and I think that's the difference between the state telling us to get ourselves checked and cultural figures. I think that is so important for these brave cultural figures to say, you know, I had a cancer diagnosis and I'm fighting it, and you should get checked too.
Yeah. How about you, Angelina? Who's the person that messes with your concepts of age and time that you look up to in the public eye?
Miley Cyrus, maybe, because I grew up with her. She's about my age. But also, she's incredibly inspiring. I absolutely love Miley Cyrus and her relationship with Dolly Parton. Absolutely inspiring and powerful, remarkable woman. So yeah, that's great. I mean, I do want to comment though on the Welsh. Like, I love the Welsh people. They're so great at singing. They're all singers, and I love that this is a Welsh singer who's out there and talking about this issue.
Well, Kylie Minogue is the different to Duffy. Kylie Minogue is. Don't worry, Kylie Minogue is the Australian that you may. Do you know who she is?
I mixed up Kylie Minogue and Duffy. No.
Wow, of course. You see, that's mind blowing.
Yes.
And actually, Candice, where are you from?
No, I'm from England, but we lived in South Africa for 11 years, so I've sort of got that South African twang.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether you had a slightly Antipodean twang to your accent, but so you would have grown up knowing who Kylie Minogue was, though.
Yes, and I think that, when she had her first breast cancer diagnosis, as is always the case with celebrities, it does sort of, it does spur a lot of women to go and get themselves checked and to become aware of it as a health issue. And actually, cancer rates are actually increasing, especially amongst the young. You know, things like breast cancer are happening to women earlier and earlier and earlier now. So it's really important that we do check ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, shall we move on now? Let's we'll have a look at this story in the front page of The Guardian. I mean, it is bleak, but we want to tell you there was a story just a few days ago, which was that 3 women whose bodies had been found off the coast in Brighton. And it was a mysterious story because it appeared that they had gone into the sea in the early hours of the morning, and the names were released. We now have a picture of them. And it turns out that they were 3 sisters. Now, this is an old picture that we're looking at here. This is off the Guardian website. We actually can't show you the front page of the paper because of the various rules around by-elections at the moment. But these are 3 absolutely gorgeous young women who are in their 20s, and I think one of them might have even been in her 30s. And their father has said, he describes them, Jane Adatoro, Christina Walters and Rebecca Walters, and he said they were the beautiful light that filled our family with happiness and love. They died in the sea off Brighton in the early hours. It was like 5:30 in the morning, I think, when they went into the sea. And the emergency services were called. There were concerns were raised at 5:45, and 3 bodies were pulled from the water near an area called Madeira Drive. And Sussex Police, as I said, have named the women today. Jane Adatero, who was 36, Christina Waters, who was 32, and Rebecca Waters, who was 31, from the Uxbridge area of London. And the speculation is that perhaps they'd been out. And in this area in Brighton, there's some bars, there's some nightclubs. I was actually talking to Ben Leo about this today, and this is the area in which he lives in the UK, just near the sea. And he said often people will go out late at night and they think it's a great idea at 5 o'clock in the morning when they've had a really fantastic night out to have a quick dip in the sea, and it can be incredibly deceptive. And the speculation being, and we don't know for sure, and it's way too soon to confirm this, that maybe that's what had happened to them, Matt Torbit, and they've all gone in and underestimated the power of the ocean there. We have that very steep drop in the sea at the Pebble Beach down in Brighton. Awful, Matt, awful.
It is awful, and it's obviously a tragedy, and I imagine it's quite common because I've done it myself, especially after a few sherbets. I remember being in Magaluf, which our Americans probably don't know what Magaluf is, but it's sort of a party island and whatever, and I remember a similar time, 5 in the morning, I thought it'd be clever to go into the sea, and I look back, and it was choppy at that time as well. It wasn't... And you don't realise until potentially it's too late, or you have a bit of a near miss, if that is what's happened, how dangerous it is, particularly if you're inebriated after a night out. But no, it's a dreadful story, and you know, if there's anything to come from it, you know, you don't want to be doing that.
Just don't do it. And you know what we have in the UK? I know these young women were older, in their early 30s, these sisters. We have a growing number of children in the UK that never ever learn to swim. We've had so many swimming pools closed down now, particularly since the pandemic, and they never opened up again. Matthew, you in America, I guess you talk much more about the safety around water, aren't you?
Well, I mean, Bev, you're going to expose me live on television. I can't swim, but when I see a situation like this, the first thing I think about is, goodness, how must the parents feel in laying to rest not only one but 3 daughters?
Yes.
It's really heartbreaking stuff.
How can you not swim? You're an American. You go on cruises, Matthew.
I'm on the boat the whole time.
I'm going to shame him. Right, Matthew, I'm teaching you to swim, but on one condition, that you shave off your moustache, because you know I've got a problem with your moustache. Angelina, how's your swimming?
Excellent. I was actually a collegiate athlete in swimming, so I swam butterfly and the 1650 freestyle.
Oh.
I did do a lot of coaching in swimming when I first moved to DC.
Swim. I've got
I was going to say, it was actually quite common. I would get a lot of adults. It was so funny because I'd be like little me right out of college cradling this large muscular man being like, it's okay, relax.
Now he likes the sound of it. Suddenly, Matthew learning to swim has become much more appealing, hasn't it? Well, I too, as an ex-swimmer, and I have a brother who builds swimming pools in the UK and provides swimming lessons because it is the right thing to do for the next generation. We have to make sure that as many of our kids can swim. I bet you're a good swimmer, Candice, growing up in South Africa.
Oh yeah, I mean, swimming is really easy. Matt, you'll pick it up. We are born to swim. Honestly, I sometimes think that we spend way too much money on swimming lessons for our children. Like, you just need like a few hours in the pool. It's so easy. I pretty much taught myself.
You're putting Angelina out of a job here. She's a swimming coach.
I've also seen those people, and their form ain't that good.
Well, if the temperature is anything like it was today, I'm going to spend as much time in the water over the summer here in Washington, D.C. I think I'm going to struggle with this. Right, Ben Leo is back tomorrow night and for the weekend. I am going back to the UK for half term, and I'm going to be covering for Jubes midweek next week. Otherwise, I'll see you back here next Monday. Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much. Sleep.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Rain and cloud across northern areas through today. We'll feel warm wherever you are, but particularly in the south where there will be a bit more sunshine. And there's more of that sunshine to come as we head towards the bank holiday weekend. We've still got this weather front though pushing up to the north and east through this afternoon. Outbreaks of rain, relatively light, but there will be quite a lot of cloud around with this weather front as well. When further rain pushes up towards Ireland, Northern Ireland, up through Irish Sea coast, there'll be a lot of cloud this afternoon. In the south and east, it will feel quite warm in the sunshine, temperatures climbing towards the mid-20s. And those temperatures will only rise over the next few days. Now, through this evening, that rain continues to push up across more northwestern areas, so there's still going to be quite a lot of cloud around, particularly across western coasts. I think the east will see some clearer spells, but a risk of the odd burst of showery rain. Quite mild wherever you are this evening. 16 or 15 degrees for many northern areas. Still in the 20s, though, as we look further south, where there'll be some late evening sunshine with high pressures starting to build in for many central and southern areas of the UK as those weather fronts push further and further north. So it will become more widely drier as we head into Friday. Still, as I mentioned, quite a lot of cloud up through Irish Sea coast, so a bit of a murky start for some western coasts. Across the east, though, a clear and dry start to the day. Temperatures in the mid-teens for many of us to start the day as well. So a pretty mild night to come Thursday night into Friday morning. Now, the sunshine continues for many central and eastern areas through Friday. In the west, there will be a bit more cloud. I think it will still feel quite bright, actually, though, across parts of Wales and the southwest. And that rain, after a damper start to the day, it does turn drier across far northern areas, but still cooler than elsewhere across Northern Ireland and the northwest of Scotland, but 28 degrees in the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.